Session to order. Wednesday, May 6th. Time is 1 p.m. For visitor comments.
I do know Mayor Patrick would like to make a comment if you were okay with me unmuting him.
Yep.
Patrick?
Hi. Thank you. I just wanted to make two pretty quick comments. Or the first, though, is actually a question, and I'm not expecting an immediate answer right now, of course, because this is just public comment time. And it does have to do with how the city is addressing the possible reopening of the city. As we all know, the governor has issued some preliminary requirements and observations about that. And I do know that last week I participated in Representative Witt's town hall, in which there seemed to be some indication that Columbia County might be among those counties that will be able to open earlier and sooner than the metropolitan area. So I'm just asking, I'm sure there's been discussion, but it could be addressing somehow again at another occasion, how the city is going to approach its reopening in light of the state guidelines, obviously in coordination with Columbia County and that sort of thing. I do want to repeat what I've said previously about how well I do think the city of St. Helens responded to this crisis initially, and being proactive in protecting the health and well-being of our citizens and our city employees. But again, I'm not expecting you to address this right now, but just would hope that relatively soon there will be some statement from city administration about what St. Helens' approach is going to be to the reopening. And then secondly, just a comment, I see on the agenda that there is going to be discussion of consideration of Margaret Jeffries for continuing her position on the Columbia Learning Center Board, and I wholeheartedly endorse that reappointment. Being a member of the Library Commission, I'm just always impressed by the leadership that she has shown, and she has a great relationship with the owners of the Columbia Learning Center, and working with them for the possibility of use of their other parts of the facility to expand services. So I just would hope that you all wholeheartedly endorse her. And I do see that I think her reappointment is already on the regular session agenda. So I just wanted to say I think that would be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, other visitor comments? Seeing none? Matt?
Nope.
Hi, I can comment. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Hi, my name's Anna Hader-Ziadi, and I'm not sure if I should comment now and just give my short presentation about our Columbia County Foster Parent Appreciation event, or if that's something you would like me to address when that's on the minutes.
Actually, Anna, I got your voicemail and it's on the minutes, so we'll get back to
Okay.
you. You're third in line.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, Anna. Okay, so seeing none, let's talk about deliberation on CCMH to use city parks for restroom areas and showers. So I understand there was some discussion about this, but I apologize for not being at last meeting. You all know why. Very sensitive subject. I know there was a comment made that I can only state in the context that it was a sensitive subject in that in order to take care of homeless, it takes a lot of manpower and a lot of money. And I think the context of the comment was that based on that. So I'd like to apologize on behalf of the city of St. Helens for the comments made about the 18-wheeler and busing to Portland. We just do not have the resources to take care of homeless like they deserve. And it's a sensitive issue. We are fortunate that we have roofs over our head and, just a couple paychecks away from that not happening. So I live like everybody else. So let's talk about, where did you guys leave off on the bathroom discussion because of the showers?
It looks like Keith Locke has an update.
So Cat has found a trailered shower that they're renting from somebody, and I do not know if they found a place to put it. Do you know that, John?
I haven't heard any updates on that.
So I know they don't need our showers anymore, but they still may need a place to put it. So that I do not know. We need an update on that. So.
Yeah, when we closed out the discussion, we didn't make a decision because counselors asked them questions they didn't have answers to about other options, about how they were going to deal with the issues that we brought up. And that was our understanding, is they would either find another location or deal with the issues we brought up. So that was the thing, is people had concerns that they didn't have answers to. And there were people in the discussion that had other ideas about possible options. And they're like, oh, well, we'll have to look into that. So that's why there was no decision on my part, is because not all the questions were answered.
Yeah, I don't think it was a place to make a decision in the first place, because it was a matter of a discussion topic that was brought to us to look at. And so we held it over for any kinds of deliberations. I will say, for the record, if you look at the record, there was, out of all the testimonies that we heard, other than the request, were pretty negative, very negative about even considering it. And so that's where it was overwhelming with that kind of testimony from our staff, testimony from other concerned people. And the big thing was safety of our citizens, safety of our children, safety of our workers who have to, who will have the task of cleaning and those kinds of places up. And it was just, it was, I don't know if we were quite ready for that in terms of a request, and it came through very abruptly. And I don't think any of us were poised to even deliberate. So we set deliberations over until the next council meeting, which is now.
So let me fill you in on that. So I was approached by Alex Cardiff, County Commissioner Cardiff, on this issue. And I apologize to the council because there was supposed to be a better presentation. And I told them to bring their A game because of all the questions and the liability issues that would be asked. And it sounds like that maybe it definitely did not happen. And there is no doubt that we have had issues at McCormick Park with homeless camping there in years past. So that is not new to the city's approach to homeless problem, with needles and people not feeling safe walking around the park. So if I'm not opposed to our downtown bathrooms being opened if they needed to shower. I don't know how the rest of the council feels about that. As far as them staying at the park, God, I just don't agree with it either, because but it took a long time to get that park's name back. It had a bad name, a bad reputation around the community for a long time.
Well, Mayor, if, you know, I'm an advocate of the parks being safe and sound for our citizens. I think that's the most important, and again, for our workers, for our staff. And I think that's one of the most important things. And so, you know, I brought up a consideration. Well, what about the showers, you know, across from City Hall? Everyone can take a, you know, make certain that they're under scrutiny that way. But, you know, that was somewhat just an idea that just kind of like flicked into my mind at that time. But further, I thought that the request should be coupled to the school district because of the athletic facilities they have for guest room showers. And we all know that in the Seattle to Portland bike rides, they open up the showers in the athletic facilities to allow that the people who are on those on that bike ride to shower in a and it seems to me like, look, I was a coach all my life, and that's what we did. We opened up the team room for the visiting team, and allowed quite a few people to shower in a very short time. Why not? Why not couple with the school district? We're already partnered with the school district in so many ways.
No, CCMH and Community Action on this one, Doug, not the school district.
Pardon me?
Not the school district, CCMH.
Well, if they're going to, no, you aren't getting what I'm saying, Mayor, because listen, they ask us to partner with their action team to do this, and I'm just saying, well, there's a facility there that they can use other than our restrooms.
I'm following you, dude.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. So, Councilor Locke.
So I just texted Dan Brown from CAT, and they got the trailer. It was supposed to be propane, but it's electric. So now they either need a big generator to run it or a place to plug it in at, one of the two.
But they need a 220?
I would assume, yeah. I don't know if, I mean, we have that, I mean, downtown we have those kind of things, but that's about the only place.
Steve Topaz is raising his hand.
Oh, he doesn't have to raise his hand.
He's trying to get in without cutting people off.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah.
Councilor, I don't believe Councilor Topaz's mic is working. Councilor Topaz, your mic is not working.
Down in your left corner, there'll be a headphone set thing where you can hit that. It'll let you talk. Okay, well,
Matt, we need to do a sound check before we all start the meeting.
Yeah, it helps if we can all get on 10 or 15 minutes so we can do that, if that's possible for next meeting. But Councilor Topaz, you may want to restart your computer and log back on. Sometimes that can correct the issue. Otherwise, I think I'm going to have Lisa call you, and she can try and get you fixed up.
so if we can find a suitable spot to plug in a 220, they have a trailer with showers.
Yes.
Someplace that doesn't interfere with other operations that are already happening. You can't park it in front of another business. You can't park it, because it's going to be there all the time.
And I'm definitely not opposed to the bathrooms down at the City Hall. Whether people like it or not, the homeless were already using them. Okay, they need to understand that. that's where they took their showers there in McCormick Park. So
There's also a large lot adjacent to the police station that could be a possibility if the police station is acceptable to a 220 outlet.
but what I would request is that CCMH and Community Action collaborate on a time, a 3-hour period, and then they worry about the cleaning process of those showers.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we got you now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, some real problems. And one of them is basically the old comment, once the camel gets his head in the tent. While it may be nice to have showers here, there, or wherever, the homeless have a problem, as we've seen in Portland. Once they start to congregate, they overflow the bucket. And that's one reason I'm quite against having this type of facility in St. Helens, because we will not be servicing just the homeless in the local area. Now, President Morton pointed out about using the schools. One thing about when the opposing team uses our showers, they go home. And that's not true with the homeless. So there's a number of, we'll say, social habits that the homeless have come up with that really says this ought to be kept out of town. Not only is it dangerous, the drugs and the needles, that's an instant local problem, but long-term is you start building a congregation that you really can't handle. As much as we need to try to help them, if the homeless don't help themselves, we really don't have the facilities even to take care of ourselves properly. So I would be very leery of having anything even close to St. Helens, whether it's the police station with a 220 plug or a generator or the park or downtown. Downtown really would prohibit a lot of people from feeling safe downtown. So I'd be very careful about entertaining, trying to take care of some people that have caused problems to themselves and other people.
Councilor Topaz, one of the reasons that I suggested the school district is that it seemed that Mr. Brown did not tap any other resources or do anything other than just looking at the city. So I thought that, okay, at least there are some other options here.
Yeah, that's correct.
And again, being a coach and going to visiting teams that are visiting locker rooms over 30 years, they always gave you a time increment when the custodian was going to come in and shut the doors and lock the gates and keep everyone at bay. So there is a way and a function in a locker room to police that. So it isn't that they just turn people loose in the halls of a school. No, it doesn't work that way.
So I know. And
that's why I suggested that.
Yeah.
And so, but I do agree with you, Councilor Topaz, about bringing welcoming homeless people to our city without any facilities or any manpower to really help facilitate their needs.
So I just want to speak a little bit that I'm speaking for myself only, that the homeless are not always drug addicted or mentally ill. There are people who work a 40-hour week who are homeless. There are 37 students at the high school who are confirmed homeless at Bounce Couch to Couch. Now, the comments that are being made, you realize that there are people out there that are just like you and I and have, unfortunately, had certain circumstances beyond their control where jobs were lost or they cannot work, and it may be due to mental illness. That these are the people that we are talking about, and they are citizens in our community. I just want to make it clear that you guys are not speaking for me on this subject. That's where I stand on this, and I even put light on my face so I could be seen because I have my back to the sun. That just be very sensitive and empathetic to these people, please.
I have made a career out of doing that, Mayor, for over 30 years. I've worked with those individuals, And yes, I am sensitive. So, you know, I certainly don't need that lecture because I have worked with those individuals for over 3 decades, and I understand it. And I've worked with them.
Mayor, you pointed out something that changes the situation very drastically. If these are St. Helens residents and students, I see no problem with using the high school. If they are not St. Helens residents, whether they're homeless or not, that's where the problem is.
Good
St.
point.
Helens residents should be handled in a very different way.
So when I asked these questions to be put on the agenda, that was supposed to be part of the presentation, was that they were supposed to have confirmed number of people that we would be serving.
They did have a number.
They did.
They did have a number. It was total was just over 300.
Okay.
And
So-
the issues that were brought forward were not predominantly, the group was not being degrading to the group. Our issues were about dealing with the effect of having 340 people shower in the same place 2 at a time. That was the issue, is that's a large group congregating, and that's been banned by the governor. So we're like, how does this work to where we're not in violation of
So under the
congregate setting?
discussion, yeah, so under the discussion originally was, and I'll kind of roadmap it, was that when people went in to shower, that CCMH or Community Action would have a staffer there who would clean up behind that person and let the next person in. So each individual person that showered would have some disinfectant sprayed real fast, sat for a little bit, and then the next person was allowed to go in. That was, and we did not have the manpower for that. And I got where you guys were going with all this. I just want to be cautious and be sensitive to the needs of those who are homeless, who are just in those spots.
Yeah, we were trying
downtown.
to just make sure we weren't inviting more risk.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
We
And
don't
I-
want
and I know you
anybody,
guys-
more people getting sick.
And I know you guys get what I'm saying, but and I know you guys are good people. I'm not saying that. I just want to make sure that that, again, the way I opened up this discussion is truly how I feel. And I'm apologetic for the comments that were made. We just do not have the resources as a small city to be able to assist the homeless who are unfortunate.
Yeah, this community reaches out in so many ways to those that find themselves in bad situations. There's so many groups out there doing great work, and I don't want to discount their work and how we've partnered time and time again about that. So I think at this point, I think I would feel comfortable. John knows what our issues are, that if John can work with them, because there is no one from their group here to answer those questions regarding mitigation and keeping people safe. I feel comfortable with John going forward, talking to them about keeping people safe and finding the best place. If it's electricity they need, several places were designed, you know, for plugins, and it was about, you know, minimizing the size of the group, not opening people up to infections. The other thing is, I had asked Matt before the meeting started, and he hadn't heard anything. With state parks opening up, bathrooms will open up soon anyway, and then people can wash their hands or take their shower wherever they please, because state parks just open with the exception of the coast and the gorge.
That is
You know,
correct.
So I mean,
Teresa-
there won't be any barring anybody from using a shower if the whole state bathrooms all open up.
recently in the Portland metropolitan area, we've heard a lot of, I've read quite a bit about some of the issues of who's going to step forward. And it's mostly private groups, private organizations, such as the churches. So is there any church parking lots that could help facilitate us with this? Is there any service groups like the Elks parking lot, or like what, you know, is there any of the other service groups that could offer up a shower? If Councilor Topaz, if we go with what his feeling of not being in the city, then we have a Lions Lodge that's outside of the city. We have places that can help facilitate that. The county, and is this a county problem? Yes, it is. And it's being focused on our city. but the county has an RV park out at the Bay Marina. There's all kinds of facilities. There's all kinds of resources out there that have not even been looked at, and it's all focused on the city. And so that's kind of bugs me in a sense.
You're absolutely correct, because we are the county seat. This is where all the resources are. This is where DHS. This is where DMV. This is where everything
Right.
happens is in St. Helens. I will agree with you that this is a county issue as well as a city issue. It sounds like, Jenny, I like where your conversation was going there, that we are in Patrick's opening statement about moving and how do we go about opening up slowly. And if it required there being a staffer from CCMH or Community Action, which Councilor Locke is liaison to Community Action. And John Walsh, I agree with Jenny 100% on that issue. I don't know how anybody else feels.
Yeah, I think that if it's local people and they're scheduled through CCMH and CAT, then it's not going to be the headline is St. Helens opened homeless showers for the region, you know, and it's just being us partnering with CAT and people that already live here.
Yep.
That's always my issue, is it gets marketed as this is a free place to get a shower if you live within an hour of St. Helens, and it's like, you don't have the capacity for that. But I'm all about helping the people that live here. You know, people that live here, I know lots of kids. My daughter knows kids that are homeless. You know, I've had some on my couch. I've had some double bunked up here. And it's like, you know, it's a tough situation to be in, and you do what you got to do. But I think if there's a...
And I will say every city, even Portland, is puzzled at how to solve the problem.
For sure.
Really are. You know, they have the biggest resources out there, and they dump a lot of money into it.
Right.
Well, with that, I agree with Councilor Topaz's assessment that if we do open for the homeless, that one of the things that we can do in the city and use the city somewhat of a city facility, possibly, if it's for our city folks who are homeless. And we do have a list of those people who are homeless in the school district. I know that. So, you know, there is that. But I worry about the floodgates opening from Longview, Portland, Rainier, Washington. I mean, good luck. Because if you start something, how are you going to get out of it?
Well,
I want to hear that plan of how you're going to get out of it. If you're going to start it, I want to know where the finish point is.
Okay, so here's what, do you understand, Councilor Morton, that there have been people using McCormick Park and the downtown bathrooms that are homeless, have been using them the whole time you've been a counselor?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand that.
Okay, and word hasn't got out. You haven't seen an influx in free showers, because it used to be free until we put the quarter machine in.
Well, we
That's
locked
right.
the bathrooms.
That's one of the things that I tried to do.
Yeah. But I think, John,
A little detail for this trailer. We need the power, you need a water supply, you need drains. So whenever you're locating that, make sure you have sewage available, water supply, and electricity.
Listen,
Whoever.
Listen, I'm just going to say this one last thing is when I'm out camping and I've been out for 3 or 4 days and I come home and I take that shower, it feels pretty darn good. You know, and it makes a person feel a lot better about themselves. And I just want to throw that out there. And I think we leave it in Community Action's hands, like Jenny said. And if they happen to need our facilities downtown, so be it for the interim until they figure something out.
yeah, just work it out with John to where the controls are in place to keep people safe. I was just waiting for a signal from John.
I want to hear the council concur about this. This is council action. This isn't like two people suggesting something and then we go with it. So
No,
I want to know how
control.
Keith Locke feels, and you know how I feel. You know how Topaz feels.
I feel that, I think John's judgment can follow through on this. And, you know, as long as everything is supervised, having it, you know, in town somewhere, I don't have a real issue with that because we're probably going to have it in town just to have the services that it needs. So also it makes it easy for everybody to watch things and see what's going on, and for everybody it's going to have to be working with it.
And that would be part of it, Keith. It would be monitored by
Right.
by staff. So it would. That's why I'm more okay with it, and not our staff, not under the city dime.
Right. And they talked about it only being like a 3-hour window, you know, 2 or 3 days a week, something like that.
Okay.
Are you ready for some staff input on this?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's clearly this is a complex issue and there's no easy answers, but you know, if there's a desire to move forward with local only, I think I would suggest that we operated under a time, place, and manner type of scenario where we're, you know, looking at the you know, the time of the operations, including the, you know, a start date and an end date. Are we tying this to the emergency issue, or is this going to be the structure that's going to be there for a certain, you know, 2 months, 6 months, a year? You know, I think there would be probably a good idea to tie it to something, and then, you know, the hours of the day, whose responsibilities are to keep it clean, those types of things.
Sue has questions.
Not so much questions, just wanted to remind everybody, but somebody did mention it, that the restrooms down here are only coin operated. So if they wanted to try to utilize those, that would have to be dealt with. And then somebody else mentioned with the trailer, there would obviously need to be a water supply, power supply, and a some sort of a sewer supply. So I'm not sure where all of those things would be easily accessible other than a campground potentially.
So I did get a text from Dan. It draws 27,000 watts, which is that about 130 amps, 220, something like that? Help me out, Steve. This is your area.
It's 27 amps, 220. That's a heavy heater.
Yeah, that's
It's a big hot water heater.
Does it have its own? Does it have its own holding tank?
You would have to have some tank for the hot water storage.
No,
How many
holding
100
tank.
gallons beyond that, I don't know.
Holding tank for wastewater.
1,000 gallons of water fills up real quick. I doubt it. But you don't know until you see the trailer.
Well, we have the one. Well, we have the one RV park out. We don't have it, but the county has it out of Scappoose Bay. That certainly would help facilitate things. They've got the electrical. They've got the sewage. They've got, you know, it just seems to me like that would be the best fit. We could partner with the county in doing that.
That's owned by the port.
That's right. The
So,
county controls the port in many senses, or the port answers to the county. So it sounds to me like it could be not only just all it on the city's shoulders, but it could be, you know, come to mind, it could be the port and the county and the city. So I like that idea, if we're going to go forward with it. And it sounds like the council is at a 3-2, 3-2 in favor of that, of moving forward with it. So if we're going to move forward, I would like to see the options of the RV park at Scappoose Bay as one of the options.
I don't feel comfortable in talking about port property. That's like them making plans for our own property. So,
Well, I'm not making plans for it. I'm just suggesting we look into it as a resource, as a possibility. I'm just saying that isn't where it should go. I'm saying look into it if there's a possibility to do that. That's all. It's an idea.
So what I hear is, I want to get off this discussion, but what I hear for right now is that we are willing to and will pursue and help community action out to try to find a place to facilitate their trailer. I think there's a lot of good questions that Sue raised about waste and all that. And Councilor Morton brought up the potential of the port property. But in the meantime, that the city is not opening this up. It's allowing community action to use the facility if they need it.
I also would like to have a designation of which group of people. Are they people only in St. Helens that are homeless, or any homeless? I want a definition of who the groups are that are going to use this.
And a timeline. Keith,
That's correct.
Keith, do you have all that?
I don't, but I'm assuming that, it's an emergency thing, so it should go with follow the state guidelines, I would think.
Okay. All right. So we've got pretty much a census on that. John Walsh, you know Dan Brown's number. You can reach out to him and. Okay.
Yeah, we'll work on the siting criteria, the use criteria, obviously the technical issues of the, water service, power, and
Yeah.
right. So.
Yep. Okay, next on the agenda is a request from school district to waive fees for banner and closure of square. So on this topic, there was some emails sent to me from parents about requesting a parade, not a parade, just a cruise for the seniors for graduation, which grew into the idea of doing a drive-through graduation down at the Plaza Courthouse Square, and actually students getting their photos taken on the courthouse steps with their diploma, basically a drive-through graduation, followed up by a ceremony later in the evening. I have reached out to the school district, and this is more about the kids than anything. And they're doing a fabulous job getting it all set up. We told them if we could help them out in any way, that we would, and this is part of a way we could help them out.
After the ceremony, do the kids leave the town and we never see them again?
Could be. You never know.
Well, I mean, the school district, just as a parent with high schoolers, they have been pretty vocal about how appreciative the city has been about going out above and beyond to try to help them out. And it's like, I think that relationship building with students and parents goes a long way for the city. That's in a place we need to be, is doing the right thing by our kids and by our families.
Rick,
They're
we need
part
a
of.
motion to have this accepted, because I see no reason why we, how many dollars is that silly sign worth? It's not worth it.
Jacob's waving.
Jacob.
They are part of our community. They the kids in school, and they are one of the most important products of our community. And it's very important that we do all we can.
Is that a second?
Jacob has questions.
Yeah, I just want to comment on this temporary sign permit.
Yes.
So it's a very simple permit. $29 unless you're nonprofits, it's zero. So the permit fee is, I don't care if that's waived. But you want to be aware that you're also waiving the insurance requirement. When the city is not the applicant, we require evidence that we are an additional insured for $1 million on an occurrence. So we want to make sure that you're waiving that. And then As far as the temporary sign permit, it's one simple form, and because it's kind of a three-party permit, which is unique amongst all the permits that we deal with, because it's the city, it's whoever the applicant is, and then it's Columbia River People's Utility District.
Yep.
That we require the permit, which is it's one piece of paper. But what that does is, it tells us who the applicant is, and it shows us that they've talked to CRPUD. So then when CRPUD gets our very simple one-page little permit, everything's aligned, and then we know that they know of the time frame. The other thing that does is it makes sure that whoever the organizer is understands the size of the banner and some of the things that the banner has to have. For example, little wind flaps every 2 feet. So if the permit's required, it's very simple. We can exempt the fee and the insurance, but the rest is kind of helps with communication. And so I don't think that would be a great burden.
No, so CRPUD is in the loop on this. They are actually going to do it for free, hang a banner. There has been a request that the city use the bucket truck for a banner on the courthouse. The commissioner said you can absolutely hang it like you do Halloween Town stuff, as long as you don't add a bunch of screws and stuff. And so there will be actually 2 banners made up, one for the courthouse and one for, and the CRPUD is definitely in the loop. It's Ken Stansberry who's behind that. I didn't want to break his anonymity and put him out there on that, but he is paying for these. God bless him on doing that. There's been a number of people reaching out, and Jacob, your head is it's glaring because you must have just shaved today or last.
Yeah, it is freshly shaved.
Hey, maybe we can hang the banner up there, huh?
So I don't see no issue with that, Jacob. I appreciate that you made us aware of that, and I know that CRPUD is definitely in the loop, and I can make sure that they're in contact with the city as well. I have no issues with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Council, is the council going forward on that? Everyone?
Yay.
Yay.
I don't have a problem with it, but I do think, I agree with Jacob, the forms still need to be filled out, Rick. Even though
absolutely.
Charge them anything.
We've already filled out the downtown permit. We are following our own rules, Keith. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Totally. Yep. We always follow our own rules, even on Citizens Day. I apply for permits. I do the whole work. So, yep.
I think we're all in support of that.
All right. Sounds good. Now we can get to Anna. So DHS support on the foster parents. And
Everyone.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. Thanks for getting me on your agenda and taking the time to discuss and consider supporting Columbia County and St. Helens foster families during COVID-19. We have some unique set of circumstances that our entire community is dealing with, some unique challenges in a unique and challenging environment. So we're trying to get creative and reach out to the community in a way we never have, because our business community has always been there as our partners to support us and help us have events that celebrate foster parents, appreciate them, retain them. And right now our business community, as you all know, is suffering along with a lot of other people, and they're not able to help us. So we're doing a wide reach to try to get community members behind this event. The event's called Dinners on Us. So it's sort of a cute play on if you were, at a cafe or, at the diner and you saw a foster family that just looked, wow, they need something, and you just said, hey, tonight your dinner's on us. So that's sort of where the idea came from. We split up the sponsorship to small, medium, and large foster families. We'll be delivering a no contact barbecue box to their home, to every certified family in Columbia County. Right now in St. Helens, there's about 55 foster homes. We actually have brought 3 new foster homes on during COVID-19 because we have such a supportive team and because our fosters and parents here know we have their backs and that we're going to support them through this. But we do need the support of the community. So we're reaching out to all the city councilors and mayors, and I've been bugging everyone. I got Senator Betsy Johnson to sponsor a large family. So we're reaching out. You know, it's more than just a party. It's really our entire community standing up and showing foster families that we see them, we support them, and dinner's on us tonight, you guys. So that's my spiel. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me.
So I know that your donations for a small are 25, medium is 50, and a large is 100. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had emailed her back and forth a couple times, and I know that our council funds and stuff are greatly depleted, and we've covered a lot of stuff this year. So I just felt comfortable personally. I'm a medium-sized family. I felt comfortable personally with my money because I'm still working, sponsoring a medium-sized family.
Wonderful.
And it's not tapping city resources, but just kind of like one family help one family kind of deal.
Thank you.
I don't know how the council feels about it, but that's just reasonable to me because we can't always write checks every day. We just don't have those resources.
Matt, what do we have in our council discretionary fund?
You know, I am logging on as you were speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So give me.
And this is so we only have another month left for our fiscal year.
That is correct.
And one thing that I will add, the reason that I think everyone can feel really good about sponsoring a family and getting all involved in this project is that every sponsorship, we're taking all of that money and we're taking it back into the local community. We're using any funds that we raise, any sponsorships, and we're using them to support small businesses in our community who have previously supported us. So what we're doing is we're flipping the script. So instead of our businesses usually supporting us and restaurants usually supporting and donating to us, we are raising these funds and we're putting them back into those local businesses and restaurants. So everyone feels really good about that. So just wanted to add that.
Councilor Morton and City Council, you have $3,842 left in your council support funds.
Discretionary?
Correct.
Okay, and we've got a month to go. I would
2 months technically.
I would suggest at least $100 from our discretionary fund.
I'll second that.
I'm going to say 500 from our discretionary fund.
There's already been a motion and a second.
It wasn't actually a motion.
Which-
I thought it was a suggestion.
You are correct. It was not technically a motion. It was just a second on a, you are correct.
So I motioned $100. It was seconded by Topaz. There's now discussion, and Keith says that he wants to do up it to $500. So we're still on that same motion in the second.
So let's would somebody like to rephrase? Doug, would you like to amend your motion?
Well, so what I'd like to do is have maybe a little further discussion on whether a 100 and 500 is quite a discrepancy. So it seems like there would be, we'd be in favor of that. So in favor of giving something. So I'd like to hear from the other counselors about what a good number would be. Should we go in the middle of that? 250 or 300 or what?
Or make a motion and get rid of the $100 and just put in $500.
Okay, all right. So the motion's been made and it's been seconded, so we got to take a vote on it. And
Okay, all in favor of $100? Nay.
No.
Okay, would somebody flirt with making a motion for $500?
Keith, that's yours.
I move we donate $500 to the foster.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to donate 500 to DHS support for foster. That's from 5 large families, by the way.
Thank you very much. That is so wonderful. And I want you everyone to know that this project Dinners on Us has inspired other counties to follow suit and do Dinners on Us. And we've been getting a lot of local media and attention from our DHS, I don't know local, but our DHS media. So I'll make sure to put St. Helens City Council down as a sponsor. And all our sponsors, if you'd like to record a video, we're doing a video for all our foster families. I'll send you the teaser to this email so you can look at it. And if you want to just record yourself really quickly saying, hey, this is Mayor Scholes. Thank you for what you do. Dinners on Us, and send it to me, and we're going to edit them all together. It's going to be a really cute video. No video will run concurrently. They'll all be sort of edited up to say Dinners on Us, Dinners on Us, Dinners on Us. So it'll be people from the school district, mayors, city council, law enforcement, Columbia River, like fire and rescue. So it's gonna be really cool. The foster families are really gonna feel a lot of love, and that's what we're going for.
Sounds great, Anna.
Do you
Okay.
have a donate button?
All checks need to be mailed. We are in the dinosaur age as far as fundraising. I was really trying to get some kind of a electronic thing, but that's not going to happen. So all checks are to be made out to DHS Child Welfare, Columbia County, and addressed to our St. Helens office here, 500 North Columbia River Highway, Suite 220, and just say, attention, Anna Hader Ziadi, Dinners on Us.
You got that, Matt?
Well,
And I
yeah,
can email you. I'm a very fast talker. I can email you that too.
no, that's fine. I just want to confirm that there was an actual vote and
Yeah,
everybody
I
voted.
was getting ready to say all in favor.
Okay, there we go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Again, Anna, thank you for
Thank
all that you
you.
do. Thank you to our
Thank
foster
you.
parents out there who are serving the needs of our children. So thank them very much.
Tough time to be a foster parent. They're really going to appreciate it, everyone. Thank you so much. And please consider making a video. I would love to get everyone on a video. So I will edit it, everyone, and make them look very cool. So
Okay, we'll talk to our communications gals.
okay.
All right.
Counselors,
Have
if
a good
you
day, everyone. Thank you.
counselors, if you do want to record a video, I'm gonna have you see Lisa in the city recorder's office, and she can do a little recording of you if you want to send it.
Oh, that would be great. I would love it so much. And if you don't do a video, we're still going to do a menu of support. So be sure to have, you'll be on the menu of support if you don't get to a video, but I would love a video.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
All right,
Bye.
thank you, Anna. Okay, consider reappointing Margaret Jeffries to the Columbia Learning Board.
I've got a motion.
Second.
It's on tonight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on tonight.
Okay,
So-
just a discussion. I think without a doubt, with her track record, there's no other option.
Absolutely. She has really forged an amazing partnership with the quote owners of the building. It's unbelievable. Plus what they're planning for the future. There's, as you say, Doug, there's no option. It's a go.
Okay. Okay, so, all right, I think we don't need to, we all feel about the same way on this, so we can move on. Now we're gonna talk about Chase Road easement. Jacob,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So this is a regular session item for the mayor's signature. I wanted to inform you of this so you know what the deal is for tonight. So this should be a familiar subject to you. We've discussed it several times. Most recently, it was at your January work session. And at that time, the grantor, Pam Wrench, verbally talked about 2 years. And so we worked with our legal counsel as well as Pam to work out the agreement. And luckily it wasn't too painful. It took a little bit longer than I thought. I was hoping it could be a simple page that says plus 2 years, but we had to rework it a little bit. So this gives us the 2 years and a few other extra days. But if you read the document, you'll see that the new 2-year expiration is March 31st, 2022. If you want to let me share a screen for the people who are watching and are wondering what in the heck is this guy talking about, I can show a quick
Sure. Yeah,
exhibit.
go ahead.
Hang on one second, Jacob. Okay, you should be made co-host now to share your screen.
There we go. Okay. So this is the Millard Road property, famous for the hospital project that did not occur. The city used to own the northern 2/3, but we acquired, in addition, the southern 1/3 after the Columbia Health District went defunct and it fell into the county's hands and then ours. So the easement we're talking about is this area shown right here, which is a bridge between Chase Road, which is another road off Millard, and the Millard Road property altogether. And this was an easement or an agreement that reserved the utility easement, and the utility easement is fixed. But the access easement, for example, to open this up as a public street, there's a termination clause that says if we don't develop the property within a certain amount of time, originally it was 11 years, then the grantor can give us something in writing that says, well, I want this to go away. And that 11-year time elapsed in March, and luckily enough, the grantor was willing to give us 2 more years. And so I just wanted everybody able to see that's where it's at there.
Yes, I'm here.
Any questions?
Well, I just want people to know that that was mainly an access road because it was going to be a city park behind there, and it was going to be named Dahlgren Park. And I propose that we, because he donated some property and stuff, that we keep that in mind when we do a park in this general area, that we remember what happened at that point in time with all these properties, okay? I just want people to be aware of that, and for the record.
So Jacob, basically you've just been handling paperwork to get done what we wanted to get done. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, let's do it.
So Jacob, just for the record, the easement for the road is 50 feet, 75 feet?
50.
50 feet. And the access road into the property is how many feet?
50 feet.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, it's basically Cherrywood Drive. Both sides,
Got it.
sidewalk to sidewalk. Yep.
Got it.
Okay, Jacob, let's have a report.
Okay, so I'm going to keep the shared screen.
Yep.
Because I always like to show you stuff as I talk about it. So this is my report for March and April. And March was busy and April was insane. And in this case, in April, I'm like, God, this is just crazy. So I kind of listed all the stuff that went on. In a small community, we get to be jacks of all trade. And April was a good example of that. And so the list of stuff that I could think of that happened in the 2 months, I'm just going to talk to you about and then kind of show you on the map where those are geographically, if there is a geographic context. So Rachel Berry wanted me to help her with some Sand Island legal descriptions. I think that was a communication in March. I still haven't gotten to her, but that was something that I had to face in the last 2 months. The building department is working on e-permitting. And because I deal with a lot of the GIS data, or the computer geographic information systems data, I worked with some of our IT folks for the address and property owner data for that effort. The police station planning, there was some of that happened. And as you recall, that is looking at this area by 18th, Castor, and Old Portland Road. So right here. So that discussion continues. There's the build grant. Now, Associate Planner Jenny Dimshow is the lead manager on that, but she needed feedback from other staff, and so we had some involvement in that. Of course, there's the flood code amendments, and that's finally wrapping up, thankfully, so I won't have to talk to you about those again. Of course, the COVID-19 stuff, that resulted in some new procedures for land use hearings, and that took a little bit more time and thought than normal, because usually, yep, hearing, this is how it works, boom, done. There was the city council goals. That was more of a March thing that we had to work on. The April Planning Commission meeting was canceled due to the COVID stuff. And so we're kind of compressing a lot of stuff into the May meeting. And so we had to get some deadlines taken care of for that, which was really fun. But in April, we did have a practice Zoom meeting with the Planning Commission to make sure they kind of understood how that all works. There was the Planning Commission annual report to council, something that we dealt with a little bit. One of the things that I do is help keep the city's licensing up to date for its geographic information systems, and that's pretty much for planning and engineering. That happened this month. That's an April thing too. We had a variety of ordinances and annexations. So what happens after an ordinance gets adopted is we still have stuff to do, send it to the state and things like that. It's kind of busy work, but it does take time. There was several updates to our geographic information system that was necessary. And if you recall the last time I gave a report, I mentioned in how the county's data, which we pull from, changed. We had been pulling from them ever since I started here in 2007, and this year it changed. So that took some time to kind of figure it out. It wasn't, yep, this is how we do it, boom, 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 done. And the idea is April just became this nightmare of layers of stuff. We had a temporary use permit for a fruit stand. They haven't started yet, but that is going to be, well, if you remember the avocados that were there briefly, it's kind of the same place. So here's St. Helens Street here, Wayne Martin Flooring, and some other businesses are up here, that little private drive thing. So a fruit stand is proposed to be right here. They have our approval, they just haven't started yet. So if you like fresh fruit, that's a place to go. Forest Trail subdivision. I needed to meet with some of the builders just to talk about street tree locations, which was easy. Here's that site, not so much under as much development as you would see going out there. And then they also had some trees that needed to be removed because they were in the wetland. I had to go take a look at that. So that took some time. We did have some inspections. And my idea with this report, and I don't always bore you with everything ad nauseum, but because April was so insane, I'm like, well, this is what I'm going to do this time. So I'll apologize midway here. So we did have some inspections. There was a little building at Dawn's Rentals and some new homes. Of course, building permits continue to come through. St. Helens Place Apartments, they continue to progress, and we'll be spending time out there for, several months to come. And that's the old Violet's Villa site here. I think they have about 5 buildings moved into, but that's actually going pretty smooth now that we're at the, now that we have approved plans and everything.
The art install and the landscaping looks really good, Jacob.
The elk statues?
That's really beautiful, really impressive.
Yeah, I went out there before they installed them, and I was like, wow, that's really neat. And actually the owner was out there when I was inspecting, and he said that was kind of like their signature component of their apartment. So yeah, it's nice to see someone investing, because those statues weren't cheap.
Well, the look to the place is definitely top notch, and I was really impressed. It caught my attention from a block away.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you noticed. So another interesting case, and there's some cases you go through and they're routine. Other times it's, whoa, that was a really heck of a process. And there's a land partition on Belton Road up in this area here. that is one of those, wow, this is turning into quite the process. So that's been kind of time consuming, but not surprising given the neighborhood that it's in. I wish less stress on the applicants and the neighbors, but sometimes that happens. Of course, there was the budget stuff. Now, the Highway Millard Road project, this is something that we've heard about for years, and hell froze over. I think ODOT's actually doing something. We were contacted by ODOT's planners. They needed a sign off from us as the local jurisdiction. And this is for the Millard Road and Bennett Road intersection improvements. So their advanced construction plans are out there. And what this gave us an opportunity to make sure they remembered our interest to get some gateway treatments for the city down there. Now, Associate Planner Dimshow has been really good about bird dogging that and making sure, hey, ODOT, don't forget this, don't forget this. And when we got this form to fill out, that was an opportunity to talk to ODOT. And actually they remembered, at least their planner, when we said, hey, remember this, but they didn't remember it when they were reviewing it. So we gave it the opportunity. They're well aware of it. And I think we're finally going to have at least an area reserved for those gateway treatments. So that was a good thing to be aware of. There was a little bit of movement on a permit at 330 South First Street here. It's really interesting because there's some utilization of this little stub right of way, which creates some different circumstances than we usually deal with on permits. So that's a discussion that's continuing. The Hannah Place subdivision, this is 10 lots, I think. That is a subdivision on,
Yep.
I think this is 12th Street, going up to the middle school here. So this will eventually be row housing or attached single family dwellings. Town housing is another familiar term. If you drive by there, you'll see some sidewalk improvements. So that's running along pretty good. And just so the council remembers, in a past meeting, you did talk about agreeing to take a little track that was on the north end of that. But we'll tackle that once we get the official application in. Scenic resource review. This is not something that we've talked about too much. It came up when we were rezoning the waterfront property, formerly known as the Veneer property. So what our scenic resource rules say is if you build along certain streets more than 1 story or a certain height, I think it's more than 15 feet, but don't take my word for it. You have to go through this process. And there's a little addition being proposed here that triggered that. We had some site permits for Legacy St. Helens Place. Those are always fun. The ACSP parcel, that is the parcel being carved out of the city's industrial park property in this area here for the industrial agriculture outfit that's there. So there was finally some movement on that. So that took some time up. There was some question about the railroad right of way, and there was some conflicting things in the map. So we had to work some staff out for that, and some access stuff that we found as part of that. We had a pre-application meeting with Rain Shadow Labs. Rain Shadow did an expansion a few years back. So this was the original building they built back here. Some of you remember finagling over the construction of these frontage improvements here along the street. And now they're proposing to expand here. So we had a pre-app meeting just to help them understand what we would need to get through that successfully. Greystone Estates, there's still movement on that. That is the quote unquote giant pile of dirt project. It's no longer a pile of dirt, but it was famous for that by the DMV and such. That's progressing. We talked to one of the prospective builders. They're looking at getting plans that'll work and stuff like that. Of course, the Chase Road access easement, that took a lot of time in March and April. Of course, you know about that now. The veterinarian clinic that is proposed in, what we formerly called the Holton Hole. Of course, it's not a hole anymore, it's been filled. That's going along. They did have some plan changes that we had to kind of look at this month. The grocery outlet proposal, that is back to the old Violet Sevilla site. So this is legacy. These are the apartments we just talked about. Grocery outlet is talking about building in this area. So we had a talk with their traffic engineer about traffic impact analyses, which is interesting when school's not in session to get the type of counts they need. But that's geeking out now stuff. I won't go too far into that. And then we also have the application for that now too. So that would be exciting to see that. The Muckle building. So sometimes we get calls. I'll get a call and it has nothing to do with me. But you know, the worst thing that can happen is when you call an agency is for me to go, oh, okay, that's not me, bye. So what we try to do is facilitate the discussion. So we got a call from one of the people who managed the Muckle building, and they were having a problem with Hudson, who didn't want to collect the garbage because there was people parked in the way here. And if you drive by there now, you'll see that it's been striped out. I was able to attest the fact that they needed the trash enclosure there, but ultimately it was a public works issue. So anyways, got the call, worked with Sue, and then things got done. So that kind of stuff happens periodically. The COVID-19 resulted in us having to rewrite some of our public notices, and so that took more time than normal. One thing that can happen when we're just busy doing stuff is we get an email from CCET, and usually it's for some industry that's looking at different places to move to, and they want information lickety split. And there was some inquiries for the Armstrong site, and that's always a timing thing. And then when you see those, okay, I got to really focus on this to get them those numbers. And luckily with Rachel Berry here, she can help facilitate that communication, so that helps. Sometimes these inquiries come at god-awful times. You're busy, you're stacked, and it's like, oh man, this economic development opportunity, we want to give them the numbers. So that can be mind-blowing, and that's why you see a shiny head and full hair there. Let's see, Planning Commission interviews. We actually had interest in our Planning Commission vacancy. We did 4 interviews, and we'll be talking about that later, but that's something that happened. The St. Helens Industrial Park level and clearing effort, John wanted some feedback on that, so Sue and I helped with that a little bit. House Bill 2306, that is a bill that talks about when building permits could be applied for in subdivisions. And the reason I'm talking about is that took time to incorporate that stuff into some of our recent subdivision applications that we're working on now, or subdivision applications we're reviewing right now. And of course, now that we have a bona fide planning secretary, I'm able to help our associate planner, Dimshow, with more advanced current planning, which is kind of tough when you're really, really busy, but that's going off pretty good. And when I started, I didn't have much training. It was just, well, there you go. Anyways, March and April.
All right. Sounds like you've been busy.
It's been nuts. Yep.
Yep. Great. Any questions for Jacob?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay, we'll go into John to talk about Best Western transient fee.
All right, so we received a letter from our Best Western here in town from the manager that is requesting to forego their contribution of their portion of the hotel tax that comes to the city. And I wanted to bring this to the council's attention that I was looking at the numbers for the airline industry, and they're off like 95% in their flights, and the hotel industry is really not that much different. A little, not quite so bad, but they're really going through a hard time. And the request that they're making here is through the period through January 2020 through the end of the COVID-19 pandemic is what they have written here. And I think that the number that we may consider foregoing wouldn't be a big one, but I would be kind of give some thought to the end date or then when it comes back. You know, is it tied to the governor's order? That might be my recommendation of emergency list when the emergency order lifts, that we resume that. Yeah, this is another thing I wanted to talk about later in the agenda in my report is just small business support generally. That a number of cities, there's a whole lot of resources out there, and a lot of it's really confusing about supporting small businesses and what we've kind of done. But I'll hold that piece for later in my report. But this is kind of in line with that and real specific to an industry that's been pretty pummeled here in the last few months.
So basically, I hear you recommending that we waive our fee for wait on the governor's orders type, which could be, I mean, specific to county versus, you know what I mean? Counties are going to be opening up sooner than all other counties. So.
It could be tied to whatever date the council desires, but you know, their business has been severely impacted. People aren't traveling. You know, it doesn't really make, you know,
doesn't bode well. Yeah.
It doesn't bode well. You know, at a minimum, I think the governor lifting and even the restrictions that are required within, you know, those measures as far as having certification from your local health department and the county commissioners is all, you know, steps that'll play out over time and
I had a question.
Cause some delay probably.
I have a question. So are you saying that they're going to stop collecting the transient room tax, or they're just not going to give it to us? Clarify what this fee means.
Good question. I'm reading it here.
That would be our portion of the transit fee that comes to the city, obviously.
Right. The state has their tax of 1.8%,
right.
And so they're not asking for that, and so I would assume that they're just not collecting the 10%.
So does this set a precedent for other businesses if we say, okay, and this is a transit fee, but there's other city fees as well that go along with other businesses? So is this setting a precedent that we start that ball rolling? And it seems to me like from what the governor is saying, that by opening restaurants and starting to open up now, shouldn't we give this just a little more time to see if indeed things are opening up? Why would we do a waiver and then at the same time things are opening up, close it off? I don't understand, because it's getting so close to opening up, and things are opening up now. So how do we cut that off, and it seems to me like it's hopefully a past deal, but I'm not certain.
Right? If it's transient room tax, if they collected it from their customers, it's transient room tax. So they either give it back to the customers or it comes to us. Because otherwise you collected a tax and didn't use it how it was appropriately supposed to be used.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I mean, we have to make sure that we're above the law and all these things. There's so many things that are earmarked funds that you can't spend them for any other thing. So if we can't spend transient room tax on roads, how can they keep transient room tax for something else?
Well, and I would propose at most a 2-month waiver if we were going to do that. Because that's the deadline we have is July 6th, as we know of right now.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's legal.
I don't.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they can keep the tax.
No. Yeah.
One of the things which I got harassed for was mentioning that this virus was going to cause a lot of business problems. And I got kind of dressed down for pointing out we're going to have some hard thinking on this. Now, taxes on the motels mainly affect people from outside of town. Taxes for the restaurants mainly affect people from in town. So when you say the governor's going to let some counties open up that affects one group of people, but not the next group of people. I think a little bit of hard thinking is going to have to be done on how we arrange this. This is not a simple yes or no, and we should have been thinking about this 3 months ago.
I think so. I think I agree with that. And one of the things that I think at this point is that it's too convoluted, it's too cumbersome to even go forward with.
Yeah, there's some structural issues with this ask as far as they're asking to retain the tax, which I don't think is appropriate.
Oh, they're asking to retain it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not okay to put our name on it and keep it.
Okay.
Well, that means they collected a tax under false pretenses.
Right. So yeah, I totally, they're going through a hard time. They're looking for anything that could help. And I thought I'd bring this before you to talk about it. So.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's go on to Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. On tonight's agenda is the approval of the contract with More Power Technology Group. I have Chris and Paul from More Power that you may see their faces online. I'm going to go ahead and unmute them. They are here to answer any questions that the City Council may have regarding their services or their company, and just basically kind of introduce you to Paul and Chris, and I'll let them speak for themselves.
I'm Chris, president of the More Power Technology Group, and one of our engineers, and have been working with Darren, your IT specialist at the city, as well as Matt, doing a lot of discovery over the last 6, 7, 8 months or so, trying to find out exactly what some of the problems you guys had been having with your network and what we could do to potentially improve it.
Does the council have any questions for Chris or Paul?
The only questions I would have is how the contract got put out. Do we follow the legal loops in asking for a new contract?
Yes, that was confirmed, and I'm not sure if Tim would like to speak on that. I'll go ahead and unmute you, Tim. But we did follow up with Jordan Ramos's office to confirm that everything was done appropriately and legally within the confines of going out for the RFP process. Tim, did you want to mention anything?
I'll just confirm what you said. We had staff review it, and we've complied with all of the required procurement provisions.
Hey.
I don't have a copy of the contract here in front of me, but what is the timeline on the contract? Is this an annual? What is it?
It's a 2-year agreement with a 1-year automatic renewal, assuming you guys don't want to cancel the contract at that point in time.
I'm nothing about More Power Computer, but I've been less than happy with the internet service at the City Hall, as you've heard from lots of people. So that's why I ask. It's like, if we're biting off this piece of cake, how long do we have to eat this cake if we don't like it? You know, I mean, because we've been trying for a while, and we've thrown money and manpower and hours and professionals at things to have it not be better.
So we've actually started engaging with the city to start improving things in the interim between basically last month and this month. Some of the pieces of what we require for onboarding and taking you guys under our umbrella for managed IT services. Essentially, we have an action plan that's been worked out with Matt and Darren over that 6 to 7, 8 month period of time. That is expected to improve everything you guys are experiencing as problems, specifically your internet services issue. That is one of the things that we're actively working on right now. City Hall specifically, Paul, you may have to speak to this when the scheduled time is for that particular swap, but there's some equipment you guys have that it's subpar, to say the least, and that's part of some of the issues that you guys have, as well as the configuration of the network. What I suspect, not having been involved with network for a long period of time, is that it's grown organically over time, and it's never really had a 30,000 foot vision of what this network should be designed for all the business functions you guys have. I understand Central Logic has been in that IT services provider for you guys for about close to a couple decades now. And it appears from everything that we found that it's, kind of add a piece here, add a piece there, instead of looking at it the way it should be, building standards and applying IT standards, not just standards to how you guys as a city operate with regards to the IT, but applying our industry standards so that you guys actually have a functional network that does exactly what you want, instead of constantly experiencing downtime or fighting fires, essentially.
Do you have, I don't know what it's called, but do you have a system to where like it's I don't know how to track that things actually get done? Because there are things that there have been outages and different issues that I had for 5 or 6 years.
So
people would come and they would be there and they would go away and it was never better.
Okay, so we do have a system for that. It's a ticketing system. We use a system similar to what CenterLogic is using in the past. It's actually the same software system actually under the hood. Although I would say that we are using it more effectively than they may have been. Primarily what we aim to do is not just apply a fix and then walk away. We apply a fix and then we follow up with you. Make sure that you, as an individual user or as a department head for your group that you represent, actually receive a fix. I worked recently with Margaret on something for the library, as well as Matt and some of the other staff that utilize the Wells Fargo website. This is prior to us starting to swap out equipment for you guys and utilizing our own. This is the CenterLogic equipment that was in place. It had a bit of a bug, caused them to not be able to reconcile their accounts with the Wells Fargo commercial accounting system that you guys have. And we were able to get that solved pretty quickly. The only person we had a little bit of a squirrely issue with was Margaret. And it was because they had a slightly different configuration on their firewall. I may be going into too many details here, but we were able to get her squared away basically same day, although I followed up with her Saturday. Her issue was reported by Matt on Friday. So within a 24-hour period, we not only solved the immediate issue for almost all the staff that were experiencing that problem, we got confirmation on all ends that everything was good to go afterwards.
The other question I have, and I don't know if this is appropriate for you or for Darren, is that it seems like we're moving technologically, the world is moving faster than the city is right now. And so I wonder if with your expertise, if you have, internet best practices, that type of thing that will help us get on the right page, because it seems like I'm involved in lots of groups, and I think that we can grow and do a lot better in a lot of areas.
So to speak to that end, and Darren, you can jump in here as you see fit. What we're wanting to set up is an IT steering committee. I understand that we've had at least one session that was early April, which I got to meet some of the department heads and whatnot. We intend to keep that going at least once a month. That keeps everybody kind of on the same page with regards to all the IT projects, and there's going to be a lot of them. Not all of these are going to be a lot of capital outlay for you guys to acquire new equipment. We're trying to utilize as much of what you have that's, meets our standard and what your standard should be. But part of what we're working with Darren on specifically is developing policies and standard operating procedures for how things should operate with respect to IT. So things as simple as, onboarding new staff. IT needs to know when new staff show up, and IT needs to know specifically certain bits of information that may or may not always be communicated, as well as when they're off-boarded, as staff. So there's a lot of different stuff like that we're going to be working with Darren on. I've seeded him with, I want to say it's probably close to 24 specific policies that we've helped other local government entities work on developing. We're at one point in a similar state as yourselves, where things were kind of just not working very well, and there wasn't really much of a rhyme or reason as to why. You weren't getting a lot of explanation as to how come things aren't getting better. Both Paul and I
can speak to that a little bit too. I've been with the city now just a little bit over a year, and I was very optimistic starting out with CenterLogic being there as a backup, and as the months went along, things just were going further and further downhill, and then with the recent ransomware attack that we had back in January, you know, they jumped in pretty good at first, but things dropped off pretty quick, and we've had a lot of issues with things being misconfigured, and I've hit Chris and Paul pretty hard just the last couple of days with some issues that that came up on Friday. I mean, Chris is the one that called me and said, "Hey, did you know that your police department server's down?" I'm like, "Well, I did not know that." You know, but thanks for letting me know. I mean, those are the kind of things we would have never gotten from CenterLogic. So from day one on the job, they've been very responsive. They've had the PD up within, 10, 15 minutes. They were back online again, and finding more problems along the way. So there's going to be a lot of things to do. It's going to be a lot of cleanup, and there's going to be some trials and tribulations along the way. But I'm convinced, just at the few, you know, short time I've worked with these guys, that we're going to make some good strides for the future.
Well, just from my own point of view, assuming that it was okay has not worked so far. So from my point of view, I
totally understand.
It didn't get fixed. So I just wonder if maybe this should be like courts. We made a substantial change to court here a couple of years ago, and then Matt came and gave us report backs, because this is a big change. We've had a provider for a long period of time, and we're switching. And I know that normally IT is not a department that reports out, but maybe in the switchover, maybe it'd be appropriate for the council to get updates.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I'm comfortable with that, and I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, because I think that I don't like the big surprise. Oh, by the way, this is all wrong, and we have to do this, and we didn't even know it was coming. So it's kind of nice if we know you have these things we're working on. This is what's coming up next.
Jenny, that's been about the last year of Darren and I working here.
Yeah, I mean, if that was like quarterly or something, it would be cool if we knew what was happening. It would be cool for me. I mean, maybe some of the counselors don't care, but I'd like to know we're making a substantial change and a significant investment. And after the risk that we had in January, I think that we kind of need to kind of keep the focus on it a little bit more than we have recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And those risks are all still out there. And so they're not going away.
Right.
So they're gonna do nothing but get worse, and that's why I'm happy to have more power helping us out with our IT issues, and we know we are very, very far behind as far as, if I think you look at cities our size, we're definitely behind, and I would hope that we will be a leader eventually in IT.
There is one thing that's going to judge us whether we're doing it good or bad. That's if you can hear it on the broadcast. You can't hear city council, and we get more words of negative feeling about that one feature of the whole IT system.
Yes, Chris, if you can make sure that we are heard as a council in our council meetings, you're going to be a star right there. Then
Rick, I will repeat what I have told you guys at all. We have done everything we can on our end, and it is a Comcast issue.
It is a Comcast issue.
When you see the survey results of how many people actually watch those meetings on their TV, it is a very, very fine, minute amount of folks that actually watch those meetings on the TV.
Because of the sound, though.
Yes.
I mean, if I turn that on, watch a planning commission meeting, I can't hear it, I turn it right off. And if someone sent me a questionnaire, do I watch planning commission meetings? No.
You know, we have had the discussion of our own broadband, so.
Maybe I'm going into too much, maybe I need to follow up with Darren and Matt on this, but is this with this type of meeting or the
No, it's with the council chambers, Chris.
Kind of a new one for me. I don't know if I'm quite familiar with this one, to be honest with you.
We've been dealing with it for at least the last couple of years I've been here, so we'll talk more offline.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the thing is, it's like there's lots
hear
of
each other.
Many other entities broadcast on Comcast, and you can hear them.
Well, I'm told they can hear me, but they can't hear all y'all.
There you go.
We're calling cattle.
Well, thank you for showing your face. It's nice to have that support.
Well, one thing I want to quickly add is maybe to help allay some of the fear and whatnot, because this is a this is a major change, not just us as an IT provider, but the way we expect to modify your network so it is a more stable, more reliable, scalable, flexible network for you guys, things that the city needs to have. We've done this before. That was one of the things that we were asked between Matt and Darren previously. What's your past experience? What's your statement of qualifications on this kind of thing? We've done exactly this, and we've provided references to that local government entity for you guys to contact if you want to get, kind of feedback and, whether or not we're just talking the talk or if we can actually walk the walk.
Sounds great. Thank you. Okay. I think we're out of questions for Matt.
Yep.
And it's still you.
It is still me. So also on the evening agenda is a job description for an accountant. I just wanted to give you a brief background of what we're doing here. Right now we have technically two different positions for accountant. We have accounting technician and then we have an accounting assistant. Accounting technician is Carol, who processes mainly our payroll. And then we have Jennifer, who's the accounting assistant, who does most of the AP stuff. What I've been trying to do over the last couple of years is to get Jennifer trained up so that we can have a backup and a second person for processing payroll and any kind of questions and things that come up, because Carol can get hounded sometimes and she doesn't have time to get back with staff or do some of the reports federally or locally that need to get done. So I've really been trying to get Jennifer trained up to be able to process and do everything that Carol does and get them on the same playing field. With that change, that's why I am throwing this job description on the agenda for approval tonight, to ensure that even though Jennifer may be trained to do payroll or something, she is not paid the same as the accounting technician, and it is not in her actual job description to process payroll. So we're kind of creating a backup plan and plan for when Carol retires, which will be coming up sometime soon. And so this encompasses that and kind of creates them onto a level playing field for those positions.
Good.
They had a question about the job application. Reviewing it, it says experience or education, but it doesn't list any amount of education, doesn't list any certificates. Not to say that it's required, but to say preferred. I mean, because when you do a job description, it's not for one person, it's for that job. So we're not talking about a specific person, we're talking about a particular job.
Correct.
It's a pretty important job to have. And it just seems like there needs to be more delineation of the qualifications as far as at least in the preferred status. We have some people in some departments that have master's degrees and other people in other departments that have high school diplomas. So
Yep.
I just want to delineate there a little bit. I don't know if the rest of council sees that as an issue, but it just seems like it's a pretty important job to not have something called out there about qualifications.
Yeah, I think if I can just, or I guess I'm happy to hear from other council members, but I can respond to that I think that should definitely be added in. And I think I missed that when writing the job application in there. So under desired qualifications, we have listed, I'm not sure if that's, I'm gonna just read it out quickly for those that don't have it in front of them. Under minimum qualifications, it is a high school or GED and 2 years in a general office typing, data processing, or any equivalent combination of education and experience. Under desired qualifications, there is 2 years of progressively responsible municipal accounting or finance work, working knowledge of computers and equipment, 10 key ability to work with angry and or difficult customers, ability to perform arithmetic computations and that kind of stuff. But there is no direct mention of a bachelor's or associate's or some kind of advanced degree. And I'm happy to add that into the desired qualifications if the council would like. And I can have that updated job description on the agenda for tonight.
Good catch, Jenny. And I think that was an appropriate comment. And just to have that in there is, I think, is essentially important.
Matt, do we have a training program for our employees where we send them off to school or some group of seminars to update their skills, or are they just stuck in the office and hope they get it?
So we do offer professional development training. I know for my staff specifically in utility billing office, and for Carol and Jennifer, we specifically myself, Carol and Jennifer go to conferences at least twice a year for our Oregon Government Finance Officers Association. And I've been trying to push some of our utility billing staff to get them to attend so that they can get some additional training in the accounting and finance world, just because nobody's going to stay in utility billing forever. So we want to try and get them as much experience and education so that hopefully in the future we can promote from within if that's possible. So that's definitely on my agenda as the department manager to make sure that my staff has that opportunity.
So basically, we do have a system, whether we use it or not is another question, but we do have a system to get
we do have a system, and if the budget allows and the department manager approves it, and I believe it also goes up to John for approval as well, an employee can go back to school for a degree and get reimbursed for those costs of going to a college class or a credit or something, as long as it's approved beforehand and the budget allows.
Yep.
So I will make that adjustment onto the desired qualifications, and you'll see that I'll have Kathy post that changed job description for tonight's approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, department reports. Chief Greenway.
Hang on one second here.
Okay.
I have nothing, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Sue?
That was fast.
It was fast.
So Matt was going to share a screen quickly. So you all have probably noticed that the Public Works staff over the past several months have been working on cleaning up the highway strip quite a bit, landscaping. And I know Councilor Morton visited over there at the Public Works Department. Was it yesterday, Councilor Morton?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Okay. And they're wanting to do some work out in front of the chamber building. And there's two photos here. What they'd like to do is remove those trees or overgrown shrubs or whatever they are that are really, that's from two different views there, that are really blocking the view of the chamber itself, and also blocking the little Kiwanis sign that we want to replace with a more comprehensive and inclusive public service group signage. So before they proceeded with that, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of what they are proposing to do. They'd like to get on this like right away. And then at the same time, they'll be going in and removing a lot of blackberries that are growing up in the shrubs there, and just trimming back some of the dead material and just kind of neatening it up. But they're not going to do any major extensive work through there, other than just making it prettier. And they really want to take out these two large, whatever they are.
Do the Public Works crews have protection to protect them from the bee issue?
The bee issue?
There's a lot of bees out there.
That I can't tell you if they are specifically protected from bees, but
they haven't had issues?
They haven't had issues so far that I have been aware of.
Okay, well, maybe it's not as bad for other people.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm paranoid. No, I thought they were going to do this a while back, so I think it's very exciting for them to open up that line of sight. We have a lot of people going the wrong direction, you know, on St. Helens Street and on Columbia Boulevard, and the more open that line of sight is, the safer our drivers are.
Yeah, that definitely does happen. I've seen it before on both roads.
Well, my professional opinion, and I am a professional in this area.
Yes.
And if you disagree, that's fine. But I think you rip it all out and restart anew, because that is a focal point in the city of St. Helens. Big time.
Well, that was what I was thinking. You know, the cherry trees on the other side of the Columbia Boulevard going the other way? I'd
Yeah.
rather have more of those cherry trees than all that evergreen arborvitae crap.
Well, I think simple is best and clean, maybe some rhododendrons,
Low
maybe
maintenance.
roses if the garden club would like to take care of them. Roses
Sure.
and maybe rhododendrons.
Sure. I think there's a lot of great ideas for that area there. And I agree that we should do something. You guys are right on target there to beautify that particular area. But
Get the over.
I would advocate for coming up with some sort of a plan that everyone can look at and agree on, rather than just moving too quickly, tearing it all out, and then having it look hodgepodge and put back in. In the meantime, we just want to try to clean it up, make it tidy and presentable, and have it looking a little bit nicer, for the coming months at least.
It's not rocket science. It's really not. And I think the LCC or the LCB is kind of put out there because they wanted to limit people to doing work. And I understand why, but I don't completely understand. This is not rocket science, and we do not need because I followed their plans, we do not need an architect or a landscape architect to draw us up something that does not work there when we can do something ourselves. That's just my professional opinion, 100%, because I have followed them. I've worked for Tufel, Kruger, Airy Landscape here in St. Helens. If you want my where I've been a foreman and done irrigation and the whole works and looked at plans and said, that ain't gonna work. Oh, that was the laughing joke of us workers. Look at this architect. Ha ha.
I think you bring up some good points, and
my thing is you're gonna go ahead and try to trim up some of those bushes, which are gonna brown out, but you're also gonna be digging out blackberries within those juniper.
Yep.
You're not gonna be able to get, and you're saying hodgepodge. Well, that's kind of hodgepodge.
Whatever they want to take out, I'm happy with them just ripping it out. We can start fresh when we have a plan.
The question I have, do we get in any trouble with ODOT with the silliness of theirs? And
we pay
dead deer.
We pay ODOT to take care of that.
That's correct. We pay for the privilege of leasing that for the purpose of maintenance, and that's all.
Yes.
Do we save money by not having them do it and we do it?
No. Nope. It's something that we are required to have. Yeah. I wish that was the case.
Welcome to government, Steve.
I'll tell you what, I'd be willing personally to donate 5 rhododendrons from Means Nursery there, 3 to 5 gallon, which are a pretty good size. That's just me personally, a little over $100.
I think, Rick, you should probably help take out the raspberries 4 inches below the soil and anything that's in the way so we can see what's there.
I knew this would open a can of worms if I went over and talked to Public Works, and I knew it would stimulate a great discussion, and it is. It seems like that is the apron, that is the pinnacle of how we feel about our town in terms of pride of keeping our apron of Highway 30 clean, because what is it, 40,000 people? I mean, going back to a normal situation, 40,000 people a day go by that area and they make judgments about our city. Are we doing everything that we can to keep it clean and developing a sense of pride? I don't think so that we have in the past, and hopefully it's going to improve, and hopefully we will go forward with this. I know the Kiwanis has taken that portion on to try to do the upkeep because they have their sign there, and so things are all going to hopefully change in a really good way. It's going to take some collaboration. I agree with the mayor that should be a pretty simple thing, but I think that we all have got to agree on a vision. So that's the way I feel. It doesn't have to be such a specific plan, or we don't have to hire an architect. We can just get something down and go with it.
Sure.
I can draw it up for you.
You're a professional, do it.
I'm going to put big boulders, basalt, keep the flower bed very narrower, more narrow than it is. Grassy will be planted where most of the juniper were, and it's going to look very clean. And you're going to be able to look down and be able to look around the whole site.
Go, Mayor, go. I like that idea. And then
I
just
can
put in a little
actually
clause, a clause that you will keep it in wonderful order for at least a year to make certain that it all works out, right?
I could absolutely do that. I could absolutely do that.
I'm sure. I know you can.
Because when you plant rhododendrons and roses, you can use casseron, which is a pre-emergent, and you don't have to worry about anything.
Mighty fine.
Yep.
So I just need to know right now if everyone's okay with moving forward on removing the two giant things.
Oh, of course.
Awesome.
Yes.
I want you to do more.
We eventually will.
You know that they're doing this on their spare time when they're off on their regular duties, and so it's something that is unbelievably precedented in the public works that hasn't been done in the past. It's their spare time. They're working on what they can, and they're keeping busy with their entire shift. If something goes down with the in roads or in water or wherever, and Dave Elder gets them together and says, okay, we're going to focus on this. We've got a couple hours to do this. And I just applaud what they've done thus far on that entire corridor from the south to the north. It has changed dramatically.
I'm not disagreeing with you there. I'm just saying let's do it all.
Me too.
Go further. You got a dump truck, you got an excavator. Go further.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thanks.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Okay. Well, we'll start small. Keep moving forward.
Tell the guys how I felt. Tell the guys how I felt. I don't.
Oh, I will. I'm making notes for them. I don't get to go over there and talk to them anymore, but I type up notes and send it over, so they hear most all the comments.
Thanks for your report.
Yeah, it does look wonderful out there, though.
You have more too?
I really don't have much more. So
Did you want, for the record, to talk about the road on Gable in front of the high school?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, I got a letter. I assume the whole council got a letter with a customer's issue through street travel. And so just how soon will Gable, you sent me a response, but I don't think the public got a response to when that road we expect Gable to reopen going both ways.
Right. Yeah. Well, if the city got a letter, it needs to be sent over to the county, because the county is really the agency that owns that road right now, and they are overseeing the whole project. The city is just a partner with them. We did walk the project on Monday morning, and the contractor's basically ready to pave. However, there's 13 spots where the curb and or the gutter section need to have some sort of repair made. There's also a few of the ADA ramps that did not meet the current ADA specifications. So the subcontractor is responsible for coming in and repairing all of those items, and that can't be paved until that's done. They're definitely on track to completely pave and have everything completed by the end of this month. But now we're going to have to wait for the subcontractor to come in and finish up their repair work.
So it's getting closer.
It's extremely close. Yes, extremely close. They would have liked to have had this done in January, but they did have a winter shutdown, and they did surprisingly encounter some rock when they were trenching for the storm drain.
I can't believe it.
Can you believe that? Yeah. So that set them back several weeks between the two of those things, and but they're chomping at the bit now to get it paved and get out of there.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Sue? Okay, let's go to Margaret.
Margaret's muted.
I don't have anything new to report. The work is just continuing here in the building. It's going to look great when it's done.
Okay, lots of good things said about you earlier, so.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. I'm glad to have everyone's confidence. Being a part of this Columbia Learning Center board also means that we work with the high schools and the students that are identified as scholarship recipients and the biannual Black Tie and Blue Jean fundraisers. So it's a great group, and I enjoy being involved.
All right, thank you, Margaret.
So how close are they? Are they working on the new flooring now?
They're supposed to be starting on the carpet today. I haven't been down there to check on them, but Roger's their contact and lets them in the building. And I come in a separate entrance and stay segregated unless I'm needed.
All right.
Or I mask up and go down there and check on them. But I haven't been down to see. They're starting in the auditorium. They're going to be there for 3 or 4 days because of all the steps and the stairs and things that are involved. But then they're going to move on to the Armstrong room and then the lobby, and then the makerspace will be last.
Super. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Matt Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. I did want to give a shout out to Public Works and Sue and Dave and obviously especially Roger. I saw him in the halls the other day and just kind of mentioned, hey, you know, we're replacing the carpet in the courtroom, which we've already paid for and everything from when we did utility billing. So I asked, hey, you know, if in the next few months or so, maybe we can get in there and just repaint. And he had given Melanie a call like an hour later and said, hey, we'll be over tomorrow morning. And they were moving stuff. So definitely was not expecting that. So give a big shout out to Roger and Public Works for all the work that they're doing and keeping busy, I know. So one other thing I did want to mention and get just a council thought on. So the Urban Renewal Budget Committee approved the budget for the Urban Renewal Agency to approve now. Also, the City Council Budget Committee approved the budget that now has to go to City Council for approval. So that involves 2 different public hearings, as well as we have to hold an actual Urban Renewal Agency meeting, which I know was discussed about doing one anyways, but we have to hold another one for the Urban Renewal Agency to approve the Urban Renewal budget. So those are 3 meetings that we have coming up, and I wanted to get the council's direction. Usually the public hearings for both of the budgets don't last very long. They're usually 5-10 minutes. So I would like to propose just doing them all in a row, getting them all done on June 3rd. I talked with John earlier about, and we kind of decided to throw out the option of doing it all at once. So it would mean a public hearing for the city's budget at 6, a public hearing for the Urban Renewal budget at 6:15, and then an Urban Renewal Agency meeting at 6:30, and then you would go into your evening regular session at 7. So it's kind of basically 4 meetings, but they're kind of back to back to back, and we just kind of knock them all out at once. But I wasn't sure what the City Council's direction was on that.
Is there any chance of us having some social distancing and having a meeting down there where we could actually live stream? I'm just thinking, I'm okay with it, but at some point I got to eat. Okay, that's the
Well,
only thing.
that's a nice thing about Zoom is, Rick, you can turn the video off and you can eat and nobody knows. Nobody sees the stash of candy bars that are sitting on my desk or the pop or anything like that. So, but it's up to the council. We just threw out the option to kind of just knock them out one by one, but
I'm okay with that. And I think by June 3rd, we could probably even social distance if we wanted to as a council. We can have that discussion later, but I'm okay with that, Matt.
Well,
yeah, if the meetings open up, we can definitely look to see what that looks like.
and double check, because as Jacob alluded to, that they canceled the April Planning Commission meeting and May is tight. So I don't know if they have hearings coming.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
just for your knowledge, I got tested, and I'm looking for, if I don't get a phone call, then I'll be okay. And that's, I'll know in 2 days.
Perfect.
So you don't want to sit next to me, Mayor, if I'm positive.
Well, no, I don't. I don't want to sit next to anybody if they're positive. But I
Just
could
just FYI.
yes. And I think we need to look further into how do we get our citizens tested and what that may look like. That brings up a good discussion I always wanted to talk about. Matt, could you speak a little bit on our budget? Because there been just a little bit, why did you guys increase your budget? It's because we run off of property taxes and the property tax is not an increase in property tax. It's just the assessed value of your home.
Correct. Obviously, we don't set the property tax value of $1.90. You can't increase it. You can always decrease it if you want. However, that's obviously never done. But I think one of the things to keep in mind is you may get talks in the community about why is the budget still, pretty much the same or a little bit up from what it was last year. And I think the biggest thing to notice, and John talked about a little bit about this at the budget committee meeting, is that we've appropriated some expenses, especially in personnel, that we haven't even currently filled. And we don't intend to fill a lot of those positions for quite a while until we see changes in COVID and the social distancing and everything else. So a lot of those positions, which even I think it's about 4 or 5 positions that we have kind of remained open, that accounts for almost $500,000 between salary and benefits. So the longer we wait and the longer things kind of go on, we'll keep pushing those positions out there until the council wants to fill them or we get a request or a need to do that. So I think the biggest thing is just because we've appropriated to spend $43 million this next fiscal year doesn't mean we're going to spend $43 million. It's all about having funds appropriated. Like, we've appropriated a lot more in contingency this next coming year because of impending projects with community development. So water, sewer, and storm all look like we've increased appropriations a lot. But it's a lot of same thing in the other funds. We have a lot of money in contingency that's appropriated and just kind of sitting there just in case. And one thing to also notice is, unlike a retail business or something, for the most part, most of our government revenue is pretty stable for the most part. It's property taxes, which majority of people still pay their property taxes. It's state revenue sharing, which for the most part, other than like gas tax or something like that, which we know is going to decrease, most of the revenue that governments receive, people are still paying their water bills. And I know there's obviously a larger people that are unemployed or may have trouble paying their bills, but as a whole, I'm not seeing any kind of decrease in any of our services that were offered. And building permits are still going strong, even greater now than they were 6 months ago. So we have a lot of basic revenue that is still going to keep coming in. So, I hear questions and statements from community members about making cuts and doing this. And we did make cuts with cutting the recreation staff, officially out and releasing and laying them off officially. And I haven't seen a lot of governments cutting full-time employees. You know, obviously we've all heard about Portland Metro making changes and making cuts to their departments. Portland Metro is very heavily event focused on the convention center and the zoo with part-time staff. And obviously you're not going to pay part-time staff at the zoo when the zoo's not open. So there's a lot of cuts around governments that are looking at those temporary positions to cut, which the city has done, obviously, that with the recreation staff. And so just to keep that in mind of that, government is still going to keep going. We're still going to have revenue sources there. So unlike in retail, we, as a government, I don't think it's proper for us to, in a sense, overreact and make drastic cuts to services and programs when, as of right now, it's really not needed.
Well, I just wanted to make that clear that, you know, because I've seen the email barrage of concern, particularly one person, and oh my God, what are you guys doing? And I wanted a little explanation that we are fiscally responsible, that we have a cushion that we built, and we're actually
we have a pretty good cushion of a 20-25% contingency built into next year's budget, and that's also including that we're going to spend everything that's appropriated in departments this year.
And
so we've already cut.
Yes,
we've already told department managers to kind of curb your expenses for the remainder of the year, and they've done that for the last couple months. So whatever my ending fund balance was or beginning fund balance for next year, I'm expecting that to be bigger than what's on the budget because we've already made those changes in our department expenses.
I just wanted to give a little explanation just because.
Yep.
Okay?
And I'm always happy to answer any questions that the city may have, city council, any staff, and anybody in the public. You know, I have reached out and emailed that one person to see if they want to come in and chat and talk more, and they can get more details.
Crickets.
Usually when I offer that, that's when they don't come in. So
yeah, I know. It's sad.
But the option is always there.
At night too.
I do have a question and or a concern, and it was regarding our budget meeting. And Matt, can you field this for me, or John?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have my concern was, and I thought it was very interesting on our last evening when we were wrapping things up, about the questions that one of the budget members from our community hammered on. And she was hammering on the idea about what Public Works, how Public Works is dedicated to tourism and where those monies are, and how Public Works is getting funded, and when, especially when Public Works goes to work for tourism. Now, it was under my kind of mindset that general fund monies basically go through community development, and community development is for our own citizens, for our people in our community. It's community development. Tourism is another kind of thing, but the crossover is what gets me. Is I think that one person was confused about the crossover from community development, which Public Works has always done. Christmas decorations and, all the kinds of things that Public Works does for community development, and how that gets mixed up in tourism. For example, the Spooks Parade, that is a community kind of thing. It isn't so much tourism, but then does it come from tourism dollars, or does it come from community development dollars? Now, the caveat of all of that is it's confusing. It's confusing for the budget committee people. It's confusing to answer those questions about, oh, this is tourism dollars or this is community development dollars. And I think what we need is a clear clarification of what's community development and how Public Works is involved in that, and what's tourism and how Public Works, again, is involved in that, and where the dollars come from and how they're segregated, and what the philosophies of all of that is. And I think that way we could answer questions from people who have concerns about monies being used in not an effective way or an unfair way. So I hope my question is clear. It's lengthy, I know. So I think we need some help there.
Yeah, I can start, and I think John can probably fill in, and Sue as well. But I'll just kind of hammer on one little point that I think you brought up, which is good. And I know John and I have talked about it, and I try not to beat the horse too much or steal John's thunder. But I think there's a clear line in the sand between what that committee member thought was a tourism event versus a community event.
Right.
And she was kind of obviously putting them all into one basket. Like you said, Public Works has always helped put up decorations for Christmas or other things, and Christmas, all that kind of stuff. So commingling that kind of thought process and those events into just tourism, really the only tourism event that we do on a yearly basis is Halloween Town.
The comment that I took away from that is we weren't so much worried about what they were doing. It was accounting for which budget it was supposed to go to.
Exactly.
Okay. And as Sue pointed out, she's got the tabloids of what the guys did in their trucks. So they've got a running record of it. It wasn't presented. She wanted a presentation of what was done for tourism, not that it should have been done, and what was just regular. And the fact that we know they did it, that isn't the question. It's just how to tabulate it. A better clarification on the tabulation was the whole story. And as you say, Doug, it's confusing because it looks like it's the same thing, but sometimes it is the same thing, but it's done for the other purpose. So we want it tabulated as the other purpose. Because remember, the people looking at us and questioning us don't have the details that we have sitting here. They're the people walking up and down the street and looking for something to complain about. So it was tabulation that has to be corrected, not the jobs.
I totally agree.
Yeah, good point. Anyway, thanks for taking that, Matt and John.
For sure.
But I don't
know if John or Sue want to.
I don't know what I was gonna add exactly. Just that tourism is really things that bring people to town, and the reality is all the events and activities and things that we do are the community benefits as much as the visiting public does. And those overlaps are pretty fuzzy, and at the end of the day, it's the rising tide, I suppose, to have a better community livability and things.
Thank you.
So there will be a little bit of a request for community later this month, as far as for the high school, Sue, just so you know.
No problem.
Okay. Matt, I appreciate you clarifying that. I just wanted you to clear it up. I know you could speak best on it. You're our financial director, so I appreciate that. Anything else, Matt?
Nope, I'm done.
Okay. Kathy or Lisa?
Nope, I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. John?
I'm not sure. Is Tina on the line? Do you want to tap her first? Or?
Oh, yes. I apologize.
Yep. Tina is TAC.
Hi, everybody. What I have been working on is permitting for the Masonic building, and as well doing some community activities, shifting some focus to merchants and businesses in town. The Explore Local app is up and alive and well and being populated. It looks really good. We'll be helping the merchants embellish and create additional information on each of their postings within that Explore Local app, which is a free app for everybody. The other thing that we're doing is some community based activities that don't require anybody to worry about social distancing. That's going to be starting this week on First Street, and you'll probably notice it on the sidewalks. The high school graduation is something that I'm involved with some. One of the biggest challenges that we have is that the courthouse is open on Friday. And so
I've reached out to Judge Grove. Do you let me worry about that? I thought
okay, I got a message from them today, and
Did you get a message afternoon?
Yeah.
In the afternoon you did. No, you didn't, because I took care of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
I made phone calls, Tina. No problem there.
Okay, that's all I have to add. Thanks.
Yeah, we got it figured out. Yep. Sometimes you have to play the role of being political, and that's what we're allowed to do to serve our community. So,
way to go, Mayor.
No, Tina, you're doing a great job. Could you unmute her, Matt? Tina, you're doing a great job. Appreciate everything you are doing. So I just wanted to clarify that good job, and love that you're helping out in ways that you don't have to, but you are anyhow.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Any questions for Tina? Nope. Okay. All right. Now, John Walsh.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I kind of want to start my report on a question about, we're getting these questions. What is this City of St. Helens doing to support small business? And we're doing some things, but there's some of our peer cities around the area and region are doing different kinds of creative programs. The things we are doing is we're feeding people through the food bank. We got a nice letter back from the food bank thanking us for the 15,000 meals we provided, or actually through the senior center. And the senior center, we have this, we're waiving late fees, so people aren't being imposed with the late fees, and we're not turning off water, the city utilities. The utility assistance program with CAT, late fees going to CAT as a portion of the utility late fees going to CAT to administer to do utility assistance, something we may want to talk a little bit more about. But there's when you look a few lenses layer up, you see there's just a mass confusion about all the small business support. You see the SBA loans and all the different programs and tiers, and then some of these communities doing their programs on top of it, which are these kind of usually a little one-off that does a certain amount of money that gets programmed and it goes out to whatever. Sometimes it's a lottery, sometimes it's qualification based. Some of our community partners with the Port Hart, and Columbia County Economic Team has both stepped up considerably with the communication of programming making those resources, communicating those resources to the public. We just heard that Tina's working with some of the restaurants and things to try to keep the ones that are open viable, promoting them. The Port hired a small business development coordinator, which is Mark Ellsworth, was formerly of the governor's office, on a limited term basis to go out and help local businesses. But so we're doing things, but we haven't dedicated any financial resources to like a direct payment kind of situation like some of these other organizations have done. And I think that's a different level of discussion. And right now it would definitely impact our budget because we're not, don't have deep pockets. And I just wanted to kind of put that out there to talk about what we're doing. And I'll pause right there for a second if anybody wants to talk about that, but before I keep going.
So you're basically, we're talking about getting serious here is what I hear is going on, which is going to cost some money down the road. Or we're taking the role of being the facilitator and just connecting people to existing resources. We're doing some things. Yeah, because I was kind of confused. I know the Port has Mark Ellsworth, who used to be our governor's go-to. Right. It'd been nice to know that prior to us sending out our letter, but we didn't. And then not even a week later that happened. So it is a lot of different entities trying to help out, and it's kind of like hodgepodge together. And you may think one program is something that you thought it was, and it's not. So that's what's going to be difficult. Right. So. Yeah, I'm not proposing. I just wanted to give us kind of the state of where, from my perspective, where we're at. We're doing some things. We're,
being that facilitator role. We're working with our community partners. We're trying to plug people into resources from the state and federal agencies. And we're continuing to look for monies that come available and help facilitate that relationship directly to the people that need the help.
Is the chamber, have you been talking to anyone out of the chamber? Is the chamber just totally shut down now? What's the issue on the chamber and how you're going to, how we function with them?
Well, I mean, I sit on the chamber board. They have a 9-member board and they have an ambassador group of 10 folks. So they went from semi full-time director to 19 essentially volunteers that are running the chamber now. And they are having virtual business connections weekly weekly to every other week. And so they are reaching out to local businesses, and they have a bigger board than they've had in the last 5 years. So, I mean,
are they talking to the city at all?
They're working on themselves. They're doing what they can with volunteers.
Yeah, I think they're in a re-emerging phase right now. They're still in the cocoon. So.
Yeah, I mean, they have 19 people working in the community, and it includes Alex Tardif, myself, somebody from the port, somebody from WANA Federal Credit Union, somebody from Edward Jones. I mean, big people in our community that are, putting themselves out. Rachel Berry has sat in on some of the coffee clutches. With the shelter and, the close order, it's difficult to do much, but I've gotten feedback that the local business owners on the Friday morning coffee meetings are enjoying seeing each other and knowing that just that piece that they're not alone and sharing information that they're finding with each other. So I think that's been a helpful resource. It's been super positive. They were worried about the chamber, but now we've had 3 of those Friday coffee meetings and the mood is getting better. So it's that uncertainty. I think when they, it was reported to me that even Tiffany from the dockside was in the Friday meeting last week. So people are reaching out to each other. They're trying to find ways to support each other. So I feel more optimistic about the chamber today than I did 3 months ago. And that's saying something given that we're in the COVID situation. So it's like they went from a director and 4-member board to now they have 10 volunteers and a 9-member board. So the bandwidth has greatly increased, and now it's just putting the programs together and getting the permission to be out there on the sidewalks, because right now everything's virtual.
So my question is this, John, is what is being said at the state level about reopening up? As far as our area especially, we've had 14 cases in Columbia County. We've had 0 added to it in well over 2 weeks now. Our small businesses are suffering. There's a lot.
Alex said they're working on it. We're doing the plan with the governor right now.
There are a lot of them suffering, and I do not, so at some point, I understand, and I'm not here to be a rebel rouser, but we've been also grouped together with Multnomah and Washington County, and we have 2 elected county commissioners. That's the majority, and I'm going to be safe if I'm being reelected. Okay, so who's really advocating for us? That's right. What I want to know. Okay. I'm not willing to sit back and let our businesses suffer because somebody's afraid politically, and this thing has turned way political. I'm not a fan of the politics around this pandemic. It is what it is. So that being said, what is the discussion? What are the plans of moving forward, John?
Well, I think you're looking at my agenda. That was the next thing I wanted to talk about, was reopening and all the chatter around that. And, we're obviously following it really closely. Want to try to get back to normal the best we can, but, keeping the community safe, doing our part to keep the people that work for the city safe. the governor in her on Friday opened up in her announcement she made there. She likened it to. She said it's not a light switch. It's not. You're not going to turn it back on. It's going to be more like a dimmer switch, where you turn it on a little bit, turn it off, and then she had another metaphor that involved a pond with some ice on it. How you walk out on it till it cracks, and then you move back a little bit. So whichever one suits you more there. So there's the governor's piece of it with her emergency declaration and the 3-phase approach, and that I talked about earlier about the communication with the local health agency, having to make a certification of proper PPE, and the county commissioners have a say in opening things up. A lot of this is just happening real time, and you can hardly keep up with it. But locally at the city hall, most people are working. I think pretty much everybody's working. The city hall's been closed. It's been busier than ever, but frankly, it's been really productive with not having that interface to move projects along on different things. So we're looking at the state, looking at the federal, the CDC guidelines, evaluating whatever risk exposure we might have by creating a work environment that brings people back too early, because there's a number of claims going around the country that are still concerning. So my message has been to staff is that I'd rather be criticized for being too cautious than too optimistic, and just move slow and deliberate and safely.
And again, test kits, I want to know more about that. For our area specifically, if that's a requirement, I would like to know more about that. I know some of this is county commissioners too, but we declared a state of emergency in order to slow the curve. We knew we weren't going to stop every death. We weren't going to stop every case. That's just unrealistic. I will say this, as far as you can take it the wrong way if you want to or not. You can get a flu shot and still die from the flu. Okay? That has a vaccine. I find it weird that marijuana and alcohol stores are still open and essential. I want to go buy a pair of shoes. I'm willing to stand in line and be social distancing. I'm not going to go to Walmart to buy a cheap pair of shoes. Some stores are really benefiting because they're the only ones open. The other ones are completely being wiped out. And we need to find that middle road where I can go stand in line and come in if they need to have somebody, if they choose to open. We're not forcing anybody to open. We're not forcing anybody to shop. We're not forcing anybody to leave their home. But at some point, and I'm not here to be a rebel rouser, you have to look at every aspect of it.
Yeah, putting the mitigation in place to keep people safe.
But also allowing the freedoms, if you feel that you're safe and want to make that calculated risk to go buy a pair of shoes from Big 5 Sporting Good, that you can.
Right, but if it's my store and I decide that the governor says you wear a mask, I open my door and says wear a mask, that I'm allowed to do that.
You're absolutely allowed to do that. You are absolutely, because I do not have to shop there.
Right. So that's my thing is it's like, if Costco can be open and people can buy everything there.
But right now we haven't
Other
got the
stores
okay
need,
for that.
other stores need a pathway.
Right now we don't even have a date for that.
Right.
It'd be nice to have a date for it.
So I think what we're saying is we need to put some heat on the county and find out what they're.
All we heard was July 6th, an extension. And we thought, oh, how convenient right after the 4th is what a lot of us said. I'll be honest. If she wants to know, maybe she's looking, maybe she's not. I don't care. But that's what the public says. How convenient.
So some of those questions are a little difficult to answer, but I wanted to, locally, internally here in the organization, we created this COVID administrative leave policy. There's been some use of it, but for the most part, most people are staying busy. It was set to expire today. I think that it's appropriate for those people that need it. There's that 80 hours of bank time with the federal time or through the Family First Coronavirus Response Virus Care Act. So, I would look at extending that, even though most people don't need it. We'll just keep closely monitored to it and try to do our part. So.
Councilor Morton, what do you have to do to get tested?
Surgery.
Okay, that makes sense. But I mean, right now, there's nothing out there from the county, or maybe the health district. I haven't looked at the website, but says, hey, if you want to test, come here. Anybody seen anything like that?
What, I haven't seen anything like that. All I know is that when they opened up non-essential, somehow you get
how are we supposed to reopen if you want everybody to be tested?
Yeah, I don't know how we get there.
We're well over 2 months into this thing. Come on now.
Yeah, where's our exit strategy? We got to push those county people.
And like I said, with politics being involved and 2 up for re-election, we have to stand up and maybe take some type of leadership role in this. We are the biggest city in the Columbia County. And if we have to be the ones push a little bit and not push too much, but it does need to be discussed.
Yeah, even a time plan to say that by the 15th we'll have this.
Yep.
And by the 1st we'll have that, so we'll be ready to go forward.
I'll tell you what, next agenda, I would like to discuss this, Kathy. So let's put it on there. And it's probably going to be lengthy, so we better plan a pretty good space. Okay.
I think it's something we're monitoring daily, and I think checking in we'll be talking about it at every meeting till.
I mean, am I alone on this? I mean, I hear Jenny kind of in line with. I'm not trying to be a rebel rouser, but
no, I mean, I'm out there in the community too. With businesses are hurting, nonprofits are hurting, people are needing to be able to get revenue, and there's still a lot of people that are still going to their jobs. So it's like we need to have masks available in our community and have the steps. So if I'm a local business, I need to know I need to have these things together, and then I can take all my little plan down to the county and they'll stamp my little thing and I can be open. You know, it's like there needs to be some kind of process for shops to be open.
Yes.
You know,
Councilors, if I can just chime in, I received an email from Mike, our building official, who just informed me that the county should have a reopening framework plan out by Friday, and that is through Columbia County Public Health and Emergency Management.
okay. I knew that, I mean, Alex said on Saturday, because he's been going live on Saturdays. He told me on Saturday, or he said on live that he was working on it. So that's good that at least we'll have something on Friday. So I guess that's a short-term answer.
One of the real problems we have in this state is the variety of jobs, locations, topography, and everything. Basically, is almost more than any other state. And as Rick says, the politics is based and focused on the wrong areas as far as where the work is getting done.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to see a huge amount of confusion, which we're definitely. The University of Kentucky last Friday had a big seminar on the neurologic problems that are coming along with this virus. And that's the other confusing thing. Some of the other weird side effects are now becoming apparent, and the planners who are in charge right now are getting even more confused. So you got to play it by the day and cross your fingers, because I don't think logically we're going to get out of this system.
Just keep changing.
Logically, you're right.
Yeah.
Logic isn't going to play a role in this getting out. It's going to be totally political.
So I want to continue on here. So lastly, it's been really busy this morning. We work on the build grant, which is going to go in next week. So it's looking to be about a $8 million ask, and that'll be connecting the Plymouth Street to First and the Strand back to First, and the alignment that we talked about a few meetings ago. But also we're going to fold into the request is improvements at the intersection of First Street and also at Cowlitz. So there's some improvements that'll create a corridor that really ties the old to the new together real well. And really hopeful for that. It's all coming together. There's a lot of people working real hard on this. So earlier, right before the meeting at 11:15 this morning, Jim Dimshow and I gave a presentation to the Oregon Parks and Recreation District Department Board on the phase 1 of the Riverwalk Trail, which takes off at the top of the docks here and heads down the near property through Columbia View Park. So it was a $500,000 ask. We're part of a 3-part ask. We're looking at putting some local resources with 2 state grants, and the other one hasn't happened yet. But so to take the Riverwalk, build up the phase 1 piece of it, right?
Yep.
And the presentation went really well. We were the second to the last proposal. We had a little clunky start right there, but a lot of good questions. And after that, and right before this meeting at 12:30, they had deliberations, and I was getting off of that meeting onto this meeting right there, and they showed a ranking score of our project being ranked pretty highly ranked, and it was above the funding line. So, and a little bit later in the meeting, Jenny came down, opened my door, and put her thumb up, gave me the big thumbs up. So it looks like we're, it's not official, but it looks really encouraging that we're going to get funded on at least that first ask. So
great.
I'll end on a good note right there. So.
Yeah, and some of it can be in kind, right?
The map.
For sure. Some of it is in kind, yes.
Yep. Perfect. We can get a lot done as a community with that.
Right.
Good work. Hopefully, fingers crossed that it is going through. Okay. Let's go with councilor reports. Let's start with Councilor Locke.
So I guess this might be a Sue question, or John, do we have anybody in the city now that can spray weeds? And my second part to that is, with the Roundup situation, are we looking at something else to use, or are we still using Roundup? But mostly, do we have somebody that can spray?
Okay, I had to wait till I was unmuted. So anyone can spray with a backpack sprayer or a hand sprayer. It's just the motorized tank, when they go drive around on the 4-wheeler or something, that's the spraying and currently we don't have anybody with a license for that. We had 3 people, I believe, that were in the process of getting that, but all with the COVID, all of those training courses were canceled. So they are still on track for working towards those licenses, but they're not able to take the tests and finish their training in order to test for it. But they have been out doing some backpack spraying and things like that. It's not efficient to do that along the roadways.
Right.
And what was the remainder of your question?
Are we still using Roundup?
Oh, Roundup. To the best of my knowledge, yes. We are using I'm not sure if it's the Roundup brand, but it's the commercial version of that.
It's all the same stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing else out there that works like Roundup, Keith. It's unfortunate.
So my thought was one, like the parking lot down at the mill site is growing up pretty good, and it's going to start destroying the pavement if we don't do something down there. So I was just trying to figure out how to get that done. And the other part is, I don't know, I guess this might be a John question. I don't know where we're at as cleaning up our new area for the light show area, I guess we'll call it for now. But there's a bunch of existing dead trees that are widowmaker snags in there that really need to be tended to before we do anything. So we need to maybe get somebody in there to especially do that. And then the other piece of that is depending on when you're down there, the mosquitoes can run you out in a heartbeat. So if we're going to be using that for an area, we're going to have to do something to maintain the mosquitoes.
That would be vector control. So we can certainly contact them about that area. Make sure that they get in there for treatment.
Okay, that's all I have.
Hey, Councilor Carlson.
Couple things. The youth council had canceled all meetings with the COVID, and we just had a Zoom meeting this week. The kids were a little awkward and didn't quite know what to make of that because they haven't been going live with their classmates. But we had a little bit of a conversation. I don't know if everybody's aware, they've done the planters down in front of the courthouse in past years, and they have decided they do want to do that and maintain social distancing and move forward on that project. And they also want to help out Planning Commission with redoing the pictures of the historic buildings on the historic building list. So they're going to be working on those things. They actually said they look forward to doing anything that got them out of their house. But of course, maintaining the governor's standards for social distancing, but there's nothing to keep their family from doing a project of taking pictures. It's just like taking a walk. So we figured that that would be allowed. The other thing I had was, don't forget to vote. The ballots are out there. It's important. I wanted to, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we know the teachers have been through heck and back. So I want to appreciate them. I want to thank Lisa for coordinating, sending pictures to the school district. It was nice to have council represented in that district-wide slideshow that they had. And then this is also Nurses and Healthcare Professionals Appreciation Week. We all know that the nurses and the orderlies and people that do healthcare have been on the front line putting it all out there for us for a while now. I think it's like 55 days or something like that. And I just wanted to appreciate them and tell them, you know, sometimes you wear a cape and sometimes you wear a mask. But I'm looking forward to it. I would just found out that there's about a half a dozen people in the community. They're making masks from their home and selling them essentially for the cost that it took them to make them. So if people don't have masks and want a washable mask, there's lots of places. One of them is the sewing place that's next to the liquor store has masks there. And so you can message them through their business site and buy masks from them. And some people are doing them out of their home. So there are places to get masks without ordering them online for people that want to shop local, and people are trying to make money however they can. So I just appreciate everybody hanging tough, and you know, sometimes the rain's a good thing, so you're not tempted to do something you're not supposed to do. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, Councilor Topaz.
I have a list of 8 things this time.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll start off with the mill property and marijuana business. I want to know how much rent was collected. And the reason I asked that is there's a note I've got in the pack. We finally have an official survey of the property with lines and all the numbers. And has that been put back into the Daily Journal of Commerce? Because that has to be re-advertised. And how does it compare with the original advertisement in the Daily Journal of Commerce? So in order to stay legal, we better do that. I'd also, as I say, like to know how much rent we were supposed to collect in the last 3 years. Okay, now into basically a tourism business. I think our tourism director ought to be furloughed just because we really, the rest of this year, tourism in the U.S. is not going to be a biggie. And I'd like to know, we rented the Masonic building for $3,000 for the lower end and $1,000 for the upper end, and it's being used as a warehouse. I think we ought to get out of that rent. In order to put a fire sprinkler system into it, that's $70,000 to $100,000 between water hookup, parts, and alarms. And I don't know whether the company that we rented it for can afford that, and I don't think the city should pay for that. I know in July, we're going to put an RFP out for new tourism director, or I say reapply, whatever. The next thing is, we just heard that we applied for a grant and it looks like we're going to get it. And I read the last grant having to do with the boardwalk along the waterfront, and what was publicly told and what was written in the grant was quite a bit different. And I put out in the wire or the internet version of Spotlight the fact that in our payment for the boardwalk, we were going to use the dumping fees for filling in the lagoon, and that was not made public. I would like to know all of the words that went into this present grant, all of them. We've not been very good at advertising that or even giving it to the council to approve. I had a this is the next thing, having a conversation with John on the Gable Road Walmart 250 unit development. John, did you correctly tell me that that was being put together by a nonprofit, so we weren't going to collect taxes in that whole project? If that was true, I'd like that to be stated. That's kind of what I have. I've got a lot of questions where we've gotten half information, and now that we're going into going for grants and not having, as a council member, been informed what are in the grants, just so I have a heads up, I find disconcerting. That's all my questions today.
So, John, did you get those written down? Because
I tried to. Okay. Yeah, I can work in reverse order if you want me to try to tackle some of them.
Sure.
So the development on Gable Road is being constructed by a group called the Community Development Partners. They're a nonprofit. One of the things we've been, to take a quick aside there, with the Urban Renewal Agency meeting, that we're currently working on updating all the financial projections for the district, because with Armstrong leaving, we knew it was off, but then it was, it's a good time. It's good to do it anyway, but this is a good time to do it. And hopefully we have the document back to us, by the meeting there, but it's pretty detailed. They're going in, looking at, new development, what it is it accessible, when is it going to come on the tax rolls, and things are likely to happen so we can start to project and, plan some of the expenditures with the district. And it does appear to be a non-accessible, tax exempt organization. And, at this point, it looks like they're not going to be.
Basically, NOAA bought it. Is that correct? NOAA bought it, or is it the developer developing?
I think it's a partnership. It's a partnership with that's a partnership with NOAA.
Okay.
As far as getting grants, the grant information was made public. The council saw it last year before it went in. The specific mention of the tipping fees as a revenue source was a kind of a back section of the grant that talked about potential revenues, innovative revenue streams is what the grant was looking for. Potential, how could the city fund this? And we just, potentially this could be, if that project moved forward, then we would potentially have some revenues to go towards investing in the waterfront. Was that piece of it? But
and we always knew that we had $3 million worth of timber if we needed to match that grant.
Yeah, that's true too. And the timber was another innovative component of that.
Making sure that we weren't stretching ourselves out as far as not having.
The grant was a transportation grant, and it lended some weight towards innovative transportation type of activities. The potential, very, very potential Frog Ferry, the passenger ferry people in Portland that have been looking at trying to get that connection to like they have a three-phased approach where they're working with just Vancouver to Portland in the first ring, and then they have an expanded ring where they're going up into Lake Oswego and Milwaukee and kind of maybe more the southern end of Portland Basin, and then a third ring going all the way up the Willamette down the channel. And it's a long ways off. It's but it was, we included that in the application. We knew that there would be parking challenges, and it was a long-range project that was included in last year's application. With this application, we're focusing a little bit different away from that. We're still talking about a place for a ferry, not necessarily a passenger ferry, but yeah, the parking is definitely a consideration. So, talking about our tourism coordinator, she took a self-furlough for 2 months here, just so the council's aware of that. So, and I believe that contract goes through the end of the year.
And she's still working.
And she's still working, yes. So, as far as the Masonic improvements, we don't have any cost estimates of, if it needs a fire sprinkler, $70,000 to $100,000. We're certainly not obligated to that, nor would we do that. And it's the mill property. I didn't understand what the reference to the DJC and re-advertising was, but we are on a path. Been working closely with the attorneys, and we should have this all wrapped up by 15th of May is our target date with for transacting the property. So, and there'll be a full accounting of the revenue, and we can provide that. I don't have it in front of me though.
Okay. I think that covered everything. All right.
To the advertisement, the original one, which was about 3 years ago, had better match this last one. Otherwise, we have to restart all over again legally. You can try to shade it, but we could get our neck in a noose. That's why I want to make sure. And the fact that the engineering drawings that I just got, that the company, was it AKS, went through, is rather different from a legal point of view, that we better double check that the two plots match. So that's one of the things. We could get caught for behind on that one. That's why I'm really worried about the legal process of selling that property.
Yeah, there has been minor amendments. And we're asking for an easement that we didn't have before, and then the property one boundary adjusts a tiny bit to go out around the building. That was something that made a lot of sense.
Well, I'm not talking about the engineering. I'm talking about the legality. When you advertise from the beginning, remember that there was no description in the county maps where it was, so it was always suspect. What were you asking people to ask about? There was no legal description of the original property. So that becomes a shady point. Now we have a legal description, and I hope this has been registered with the county. And how close is it? A minor doesn't cut it. It's like a little bit pregnant. So that we best be very, very careful of.
Okay, we have the Mylars. They're on Jacob's desk. There's a.
I don't care.
They can be recorded at any point here. So.
What's in the Daily Journal of Commerce? That's important.
So I will speak on this, that we are okay as far as us moving forward with this property. I can guarantee you that we're within our urban renewal. As far as us selling this property, still for $1.5 million with 2 little minor adjustments, an easement for a rail spur, and adopting a building that was kind of really pretty much in the area anyhow. It made sense because there was a road, one little building, and then a road. So that's what I can say from what I know, and you should know as well. If it is always available. If you're ever confused, please talk to me or talk to John a little bit more in depth, because you and I have yet to have very many conversations. I just want to say that, just because I'll give you an honest answer. You may like it, you may not like it, but I'll give you my honest opinion. If it's an opinion, I'll let you know, Councilor Topaz, that this is strictly an opinion. I promise you that. I will not give you.
No problem with that. No problem.
I won't give you no BS. Okay.
I have no problem with that.
All right. Any other things to report on, Steve?
No, that's it.
Okay. Council President Morton.
Hey, with a positive approach, kind of like retune into what's going on with me. And I just want to say that we've got 80-degree weather coming on Saturday. Wow. And the parks are gonna, I know, facilitate all the people who want to get out and walk around. I've been doing that a lot. I visited every park and walked most every park, walked a lot of the trails in the community, actually met a lot of people there, and everyone was masked, safe. It's just, you know, to me, it was a very positive experience getting around to the parks. I was very impressed. I might have reported this a couple of weeks ago, but I went back. I was very impressed with Sand Island, how clean it is and how pristine it is. With it, it's beautiful. And if you get there on a sunny day and you have the fortunate enough to have a boat to get over there, it's an amazing place to visit at this point. A lot of eagles and ospreys working in the trees. It's nice. So that's my positive report. One of the things I want to do is thank the council and especially Sue Nelson for kind of leading, and I asked a request for this to have a Zoom meeting with the Parks Commission. And Sue stepped forward and we had a practice meeting last week, and that went well. And kind of sense of urgency is to get Parks Commissions on board to make certain that they know about each park and where it's going, have a vision for it, and have a vision for redoing our master plan. Our master plan is essentially important to have. So all projects are listed so that when grants come along, we're ready to go because it's already there. And it makes us more eligible for grants that do pop up through the state system or federal grants as well. Other than that, I just want to, I feel really good about where we're at with our parks. And I was going to talk extensively about the budget meeting, but we've already had that conversation. So with that, that's my report. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Okay. So kind of what's been on my mind is to keep moving projects forward. I think that we need to actually have a meeting in June as far as our council goals, because we were ready to pull the trigger on a lot of different things and a lot of hires, and just kind of mid-June is to have a council meeting on goals and projects that, and we'll know more hopefully on this grant by then. We are getting ready to pull the trigger on a lot of different things, and COVID happened. And I'm not going to use this as an excuse to not move this city forward. And I know the rest of the council feels the same way. So we will be collective. We will look at it. We will be fiscally responsible, but we need to move this city forward. And it is our responsibility to do that. Very encouraged about the grant on the waterfront. I will say this to the Parks Commission about the master plan. If there is a park out that way in Rosswood area, that Dahlgren be definitely, that you don't forget that that was originally what was supposed to be named, that park, Dahlgren Park. That be brought up. Yeah, again, we talked a little bit earlier about the COVID and the response in our area and how we go about the opening. And if it is testing required, we need to be very pushy on getting those tests available. We have a legacy clinic here that is brand new facility that could do the testing, I'm sure. I'm not, I'm sure there's some grant money behind it. We have 13,500 people in just our city limits. Surrounding areas, there's 50,000. We have only 14 cases. It has not grown. It has not grown. So, and I'm thinking about our businesses. I really, truly am. It is something that we have to discuss and talk about at our next meeting. I look forward to that. And, you know, some people just want to come down and pay their water bill in person, Matt. They just do. They have to go get a money order and then come back, or then fill out the envelope, put a stamp on it, and they're so used to coming down, and it's just part of their routine.
We are, I was going to email Public Works today, and I have not had a chance. So, Sue, this is your notice. I was going to have, John and I talked about putting the box back up to kind of give folks another chance, and we'll see how it goes. I've talked about it with staff, and they're okay with that, unless something again happens that causes us to take it down. So that Dropbox will, if Public Works has time, whenever they can, to put that back up, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, sure.
And I know we do appointment, but maybe even if it was open on one day where we could wear masks and gloves and wipe stuff down 1 day a week, and we made that part of the gradual opening. And we'll know more. We will know a lot more, but
yeah,
that's definitely should not be out of the realm. You know, I mean, if we have to put up plexiglass, we have to put up plexiglass like every other store. Okay, that's what we'll do. But we have to make those necessary adjustments, and at some point start thinking about opening up the city. So even if it's for a day, Friday, you want to come in, you want to sit down and apply for permits or go pay your water bill, we can do that. So. All right, that's all I have. We're going to be going into executive session here in a moment, and it will be under ORS. Just want to make this announcement because we're going to take a break. 1926602E, real property transaction, and H, consulting with counsel on potential litigation. So we'll be doing that. I'm going to adjourn, and we'll be going into that in 5-10 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes.
Mayor, who do you want in that meeting?
Yeah.
All I really need is counsel. John, who do we need? Anybody special? I mean, yourself.
It's probably gonna be really brief. Probably the attorney.
Absolutely, the attorney.
Yeah, and myself is probably not. If Matt wants to, that's fine. But
yeah,
if you guys are okay with it, just because I'm the host for the meeting.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
In worst case, I can always step out of the room while you guys are doing.
All right, so we're adjourned and we're taking 5 minutes.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I see ya. Don't worry. All right, bye.